Good morning. This is in the headlines right here on Good Morning Kenya, and I'm Regina Manyara. Being Wednesday, the 3rd of August 2022, 5 days to the general election, with 4 candidates eyeing the top seat in the upcoming election. So are you ready to vote? Are you part of the 22 million plus Kenyans who have registered to participate in the vote? Are you going to be participating? Well, you can let us know on our Twitter handle at KBC Channel 1, and my Twitter handle is at Ray Manyara. We have so much in store for you, including a brief from the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission in regard to the status report of the upcoming elections. That and so much more will be coming up in not too long. Thank you for making time. Now, without further ado, let us bring you up to speed with those stories that have been making headlines. And we start off from Bomas, where yesterday the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission will be displaying a respective voter register in all the 46,229 polling stations countrywide. Now, IEBC is urging all registered voters to check their voter registration details before Election Day. IEBC boss Wafula Chebukati has also warned those who do not appear in the manual voter register that they will not be able to cast their vote.
Speaking during a stakeholders prayer meeting at the Bomas of Kenya, IEBC said only those voters whose names and details appear in the physical register availed will vote on Tuesday.
The regulations require that you will only be allowed to vote if you present the document that you used to register as a voter. So if you registered with a passport, you cannot come and present an ID.
The commission said they had provided a manual voter list in schools that will act as polling centers, urging Kenyans to verify their details.
The register of voters has been pinned or is being pinned at prominent locations in all the polling stations, and this follows the closure of schools. This therefore means eligible voters are encouraged to check and ascertain their details in preparation for voting on August 9, 2022.
The commission noted that 1,272 polling stations lacked sufficient network coverage for election transmission, adding that a third simulation exercise was currently ongoing. Religious leaders present implored politicians to desist from meddling with the IEBC in order to allow them fulfill their mandate.
We come with a voice of reason to say, on 9th, no mother in this country will shed a tear because there was elections on 9th.
Let us embrace that very God so that He may direct our mental faculties in the right direction.
Mola wetu, tukuomba utujalie heri, nchi yetu iongozwe na waja wema. Utukufu wako udumishwe na jina lako litukuzwe daima. Unafiki na ufisadi uangamizwe.
They rallied Kenyans to vote and wait for the results.
And once you have done your part, casting your ballot into the box, go home and wait for the results as IEBC manages the process. We remind every Kenyan that we have a sacred responsibility and a duty to safeguard this country for our own sake and that of posterity.
While confirming that the coming elections will be free and fair, the Commission Chairman Wafula Chebukati said election results will be at the polling station and the Bomas of Kenya will only act as a national tallying center.
IEBC is an independent commission. We work and our fidelity is the constitution and the law and not to any individual or authority. And I want to assure you and the country that this is a team that is going to deliver the election. They are not shaken by what you read in the social media, in the newspapers. and what you watch on TV that is negative. Don't come to Bomas to look for results. Come for the final declaration. The results are at the polling station. And we have opened the polling station to the media, to the observers, and said, everybody take copies of the results and do your own parallel vote tallying if you so wish.
Now, in case you're wondering why Wafula Chebukati is the chairman of the IEBC made those comments, is that this is anchored in law, that all the results that are going to be announced at the respective polling stations, be it the results for the president's seats, as well governor, senate, all the way to the MCA, those are final. Why? This follows a court directive verdict, a previous judgment at the appellate court in 2017. You can get further details on our website. So the Bomas of Kenya is going to be acting as the national tallying center, and the president's returning officer is none other than the chair himself of IEBC, Wafula Chebukati. Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta commissioned the Kisumu shipyard and floating over the historic MV Uhuru 2. The vessel, constructed at a cost of 2.5 billion shillings, is expected to be completed by April 2023. The president hailed the milestone as a step in the direction towards fulfilling full exploitation of the blue economy. Achola Simon with the details.
A year since he first commissioned the commencement of the construction of the 2.5 billion shillings vessel, President Uhuru Kenyatta was back in the lakeside city of Kisumu to commission the floating of the cargo ship.
The operationalization of this facility will create businesses as well as job opportunities for hundreds of thousands of people through growth of primary and ancillary manufacturing industries, improved transport and safety on the lake, and enhanced intermodular transport, but more so will boost our fishing, our tourism, and other economic activities in the Lake Basin region.
The vessel and the shipyard are expected to have catalytic effect on the regional economy, and the president is urging locals to seize the opportunity.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Kenya Shipyard's limited role in the development of our blue economy is set to attract foreign direct investment, but also to direct domestic investments in the long run. Its catalytic effect will trigger growth of ancillary and support industries and businesses that will have a cascading effect across the whole of the national economy.
In the revamping of the Kenya Meat Commission and the Kenya Railways, flotation and subsequent commissioning of MV Uhuru 2 will have an immediate impact of increasing the volume of petroleum product being transported to Uganda from Kisumu, while at the same time generating more revenue for the government and creating jobs for our youth.
The head of the state also urged Kenyans to embrace industrialization as a conduit for creating national wealth and employment of the youth.
You know, you can dream, but dreams can also turn into a reality. The impossible is possible, but not while you're sleeping. To make a dream a reality, you have to wake up in the morning and get to work and put in the effort that it requires to turn those dreams into reality. Ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing that is impossible. Impossible is only a factor of the mind.
The president is on a 3-day working visit in Western and Nyanza region. The president launched the refurbished railway station and is also expected to give out charters to various colleges, universities in Western Kenya. Achola Simon, Prime Edition, Kisumu County.
Kenya's blue economy potential remains largely untapped, and we hope that particular commissioning of that particular vessel is going to work towards repairing that or breaching that particular gap. Now back to the campaign trail, where Azimio la Umoja One Kenya flag bearer Raila Odinga says voters will choose between development-oriented leaders or corrupt politicians. Campaigning in Kisii County, Odinga called on voters to turn up on the 9th of August and elect leaders of integrity to secure the future of the nation. Leaders accompanying Raila in Kisii expressed optimism that Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party will form the next government.
Kutoka Siaya, Kisumu, Nyamira, Homa Bay, Kisii na Migori, tumeamua tutachagua Raila 100%. Kweli ama si kweli?
Yule ambao tutaweka kwa barabara moja, kwa kauli moja, kwa msimamo mmoja, kwa tabia moja, kwa fikra moja, hakuna mwingine isipokuwa Raila Amolo Odinga. Tumekubaliana?
Kila mmoja wenu hakikisha amepiga kura hii. Hii kura hii ni ya maisha yako na ndugu yako yeyote ambaye anaishi nje ya Kisii. Sio kura ya mchezo hii.
Hii kiti imeenda na baba. Mkitokea hii kiti imeenda.
Uchaguzi hii ambayo tutafanya Jumanne inakuja sio kama ile ya 2017, sio kama 2013, sio kama 207. Hii unaweza kufananisha na uchaguzi mbili peke yake. Moja 1963 ambayo ilileta uhuru ikatoa mzungu hapa, na 2002 ambayo ilimaliza utawala chama kimoja na ikazaa katiba mpya. Ufisadi inatoa pesa kwa hazina ya serikali na kwa mfuko ya watu binafsi. Sasa nyinyi mnatoa ushuru, na ushuru hiyo haitumiki kuleta huduma kwenu. Unaka tumesema kuanzia mwaka ujao watoto wetu wote kuanzia nursery, primary, secondary, mpaka tertiary, mpaka chuo kikuu hakuna karo tena.
Well, that was in Kisii. On the other hand, Kenya Kwanza Alliance has called on provincial administration to steer away from politics, assuring them of their job safety. A team led by Deputy President William Ruto claimed some chiefs were being used to buy national ID cards from the Alliance's support base.
Na tunawauliza wale wanataka kutumia machief. Machief ni wafanyikazi wa serikali ya Kenya na wanahudumia Wakenya wote bila ya kujali kabila ama dini ama rangi ama mirengo ya kisiasa. Sisi tunasema kama Kenya Kwanza tutafanya uchaguzi wa huru na haki na amani. Hatuwezi kukubali mtu yeyote apange mambo ya kuchochea Wakenya. Wakenya wanajua watapiga kura kwa nani, kwa vipi, na tutaheshimu kila mtu apige kura mahali anapenda.
Hii serikali ya mahasola hatutaki raia wasumbuliwe. Lazima tupange hawa polisi wawachane na raia. Na dawa ya kuwapanga ni kuwalipa vizuri, tuwaongeze mshahara na marupurupu wapate mshahara mzuri.
Rais wa 5 wa nchi ya Kenya atakuwa William.
Tarehe 8 tutalala tumefanya nini? Saa 9 tutakuwa kwa ballot. Pale tukikupigia kura.
Now, Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i has assured Kenyans of their security during and after the 9th August election amid claims of circulation of hateful leaflets in the rift. The CS, who spoke after meeting with security officials in the region, also said 8 people have been arrested in connection with the leaflets. And at the same time, the CS revealed that a contingent of General Service Unit personnel will be deployed in Eldoret, Kuresoi and Molo to beef up security.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i now says the government is committed to ensure safety of all Kenyans amid claims of hateful leaflets in parts of Rift Valley. During a meeting with security chiefs, says Matiang'i said persons suspected to be behind the circulation of hateful leaflets have since been arrested.
We are fine. Rift Valley is secure. It's quiet. We don't have evidence of anything that should worry anyone here. We have teams on the ground that have been working here for a long time. We are collecting intelligence in real time. That's why we were able to very quickly arrest 8 suspects in connection with the circulation of the leaflets. In addition to that, however, I need to confirm to the residents of Rift Valley that the National Security Council has ordered additional security resources for this region. And so you are going to see increased deployment and patrol of more of our GSU teams here. We are placing more personnel on the ground here in Molo, in Kuresoi, in Neswit, in a number of places around here, just to be ready. They are not here for any particular aggression. They are here to assure our Wananchi and to demonstrate to our Wananchi that we are ready to rise up to any challenge that may come up.
According to the Cabinet Secretary, measures have also been put in place to boost security in parts of Rift Valley, a move that will see more officials from the General Service Unit deployed in areas such as Molo, Kuresoi and Eldoret.
The police have got 8 suspects or 8 persons of interest in custody in connection with the circulation of those leaflets. We hope that some of those will be taken to court today and investigations continue. Please exercise a sense of restraint. Think about the country. Think about the language and the words that you are using before you speak out to the public. We do not want to ban our country.
Calls for peace there and an assurance from the Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i in regard to matters of security in the run-up to the polls and even during the polls and after the polls. Now, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance Coalition Party presidential candidate Raila Odinga continues to enjoy a steady lead over his closest competitor, that is Deputy President William Ruto of Kenya Kwanza. This is according to the latest survey by the Ipsos that also indicates that 11 counties remain the battlegrounds for the 2 leading contenders. According to the survey, Ruto leads in Rift Valley and Mount Kenya, while Raila enjoys support from the remaining regions.
If polls were held today, Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate Raila Odinga, whose popularity is at 47%, will be ahead by 6% points over Kenya Kwanza William Ruto's 41%, if recent opinion polls by Ipsos in Kenya are anything to go by. Ruth's party George Wajakoya popularity stands at 2.9% and Agano's David Mwaure at 0.2%. The survey clearly indicating no candidate has met the 50% plus 1 threshold, which will likely force a rerun. With just 6 days to the polls, the 2 front-runners in the highly contested election still have work to do this week to persuade voters in 11 counties that have been classified as battlegrounds.
Raila Odinga stands out as the candidate who brings the legacy. He stands for better governance. However, he is perceived to be advanced in age, and that is his main shortcoming. On the other hand, Dr. William Ruto as a main asset in that he presents hope for future. However, his main shortcoming is his perception of stained integrity, and that will be a major headwind.
According to Ipsos, however, the motive of the poll to the public is a contribution to deepen democracy, indicating most voters have already cemented their decisions. Political campaigns officially wind up Saturday, August 6th, 48 hours before the election. The game of numbers is complicated by the undecided and undeclared voters polled at 3.8% and 5.1% respectively.
The votes will be decided on how the candidates fare on those 11 counties. And those counties are where none of the candidates has a 55% or a clear lead. about 55%.
11 regions, namely Lamu, Nyamira, Wajir, Mombasa, Kitui, Samburu, Narok, Nakuru, Kiambu, Bungoma, Tana River and Marsabit are seen as the areas that will determine who will carry the day.
When people are informed, they can make better choices. What we have seen is already that most voters have already cemented their choices. We do not feel like this opinion poll will influence, to a large extent, voter outcomes. But when we make this information available to you as members of the Fourth Estate and to Kenyans in general, it is our contribution to deepening democracy.
Raila has a lead at the coast, Nyanza North, Lower Eastern and Southern Nyanza. On the other hand, DP Ruto leads in Mount Kenya and Central Rift. The survey had a sample size of 6,105 participants of 18 years and above and registered voters from all 47 counties. The survey was done between 23rd and 30th July.
Now, among the 11 counties that have been considered as battlegrounds ahead of the August 9 polls include Lamu, which has the least number of registered voters at 81,453 with 191 polling stations, as well as Tana River there that has 141,096 registered voters, having only 367 polling stations there. So this deciding counties, as my colleague there has rightfully put, is as per that particular survey, the top contenders, that is Raila Amolo Odinga as well as William Ruto, have not garnered anything above 55% from the particular survey. We'll be keeping tabs on that. Remember, it is just 5 days to the August polls. Now to another survey. The latest survey by Infotrack Research Institution reveals that Azimio la Umoja One Kenya presidential candidate Raila Odinga is in the lead with 49%. His main competitor for the United Democratic Alliance presidential candidate William Ruto takes the second position with a 42% preference. Speaking while releasing the poll that was conducted between the 1st and the 2nd of August from a sample size of 6,000 respondents, Infotrack Chief Executive Officer Angela Ambedo said that the August 9th election will be premised on areas such as integrity, with Kenyans going to the polls to elect a leader who is trustworthy and can assure continuity of Vision 2030. The survey has also revealed that the undecided voters have reduced from 20% to 6%. According to the survey, Ruto is still doing well in Mount Kenya region, but his influence in that region has reduced from 80% to 60%.
The margin of error for the 6,000 is plus or minus 1.4 at 95% degree of confidence. That generally means that 95 out of 100 times, if we were to ask the same question we asked this morning and yesterday, we would get the same answer. 5% of the time, things may be different. For social surveys, that gives us a lot of comfort, especially because of the way we have stratified our sample to ensure that it is as representative as possible of the entire population, which in this case is the voter population. That until it is almost the last hour, you know that 48 hours, 24 hours in Kenyan politics or politics anywhere is a long time, okay? So there is that, possibility that things could change before Tuesday. So we need to make that disclaimer. This is not actually a predictive poll. It is the final poll that we are allowed to do.
That final poll there, we're going to be comparing notes between what has already been published vis-a-vis what we'll be getting in the next 5 days. Remember, it is 5 days to the August 9th polls. Are you ready to vote? Who are you going to who is your preference in as far as the president, governor, senator, all the way to your member of parliament and ward? Would like to know. You can get us on Twitter on KBC Channel 1. Now, confusion, uproar and displeasure marked the school's closing day, with many learners stranded in various bus termini. Now, the abrupt closure of the schools by the Ministry of Education has also attracted disapproval from a section of Kenyans. The Ministry of Education announced the 2nd August of 2022 as a closing date to allow the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission more time to prepare for the upcoming polls.
At the Nairobi Stirum bus terminus, a beehive of activity as students from various schools outside and in Nairobi alight from public service vehicles. Others are on the same breath trying to board their respective matatus for up-country travel. At the Ambassador bus stop and the surrounding areas, students are everywhere as they try to locate their way home. An abrupt announcement by the Ministry of Education that all schools should be closed by today for midterm break has caught teachers, learners and parents off guard.
Tumepatikana offside, hatujafurahia hata kidogo. Hawaku wametuarifu kabla wajafunga shule, hatujafurahia hata kidogo.
Kwa syllabus hatukuwa tumemaliza, tumefika katikati japo tulikuwa karibu kumaliza.
Most parents were preparing to pick their students on Friday as earlier indicated by the ministry.
Sisi wazazi tunahitaji kuambiwa kukiwa na muda. Hiyo imetokea ghafla, watoto wanafunga shule. Sijui kama ni kitu ilikuwa inajulikana before, lakini kama mimi nimeona haikuwa in order.
It was the same script in Kiambu with most hundreds of stranded students braving the morning showers to catch their buses home.
This closing, it has just come all of a sudden, but we'll take it well, and we are hoping for peace during this election because we want to go back to school and finish our studies.
Learners are expected to resume classes on the 11th day of August to complete the second term of the 2022 academic calendar. IEBC will use most of the learning institutions as polling stations.
The directive by the Ministry of Education to have all schools closed on the August 2nd, the year 2022, was so as to give IEBC ample time to prepare for the upcoming August 9th general election. Students and parents alike have expressed their displeasure over this abrupt closure and hope that next time the government will give them more time to prepare for.
Their hopes and dreams there lie with the adults in the room and in the country, so to speak, to make the right decision in 5 days towards the election and even after there. They say that they want a peaceful election and that these are the students and pupils who are at home for a break to allow IEBC prepare for the upcoming elections. Remember, this particular directive is actually anchored in law. We take a quick breather. When we're back, we'll have more stories, including what is happening in matters of crime, as well as what are the results from the Commonwealth Games that are currently happening, or rather taking place at Birmingham, the UK. Do not go. We'll be right back.
Kwa miaka 11 Minto FM imekuwa pamoja nanyi ikiwapa burudani na kuwaelimisha. Na sasa tunawaalika mashabiki wetu tujumuike pamoja kwa tamasha la Minto Night. Tarehe 6 mwezi Agosti tutakuwa na Minto Night huko Winspark Resort Kisii. Wanamuziki kama vile Kwasa, Embarambamba na wengine watakuwa site kuwaburudisha. Siku ya Jumapili tarehe 7 Agosti, Minto FM itaandaa maombi ya shukrani na kuombea uchaguzi wa amani katika uwanja wa Itiero Primary School kuanzia saa 3 asubuhi. Waimbaji wa nyimbo za dini wakiwemo Evangelist Eric Mwaniki, Molly Kemunto na wengineo watakuwemo. Nyote mwalikwa.
Minto FM yenye karuga yusi.
Did I lose my babies?
Only one of them. That's why you felt sick and you woke up all bloated.
Don't ever do that, Adrian. Do you think I'm so helpless that I won't be able to earn a living for myself? No.
I don't even know how to approach you. I've forgotten you for many years.
And you?
We heard about what happened, son. We came to see you.
Get out. Get out of here.
Renelle, please.
Go away.
Good morning. Thank you for keeping us company right here on Good Morning Kenya on KBC Channel 1. I'm Regina Manyara. Now let's continue with those headlines that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours. And we start off with matters of security, where a 36-year-old man from Shitungu village in Kakamega County has died after allegedly consuming illicit brew. The deceased, Abdullahi Indimuli, is suspected to have taken the brew on an empty stomach. Area residents have lamented over an increase in unlicensed brewers in the area.
A family in Shitungu village in Kakamega County is mourning following the demise of their kin. 36-year-old Abdallah Indimuli, a father of 3, is said to have consumed illicit brew on an empty stomach, quickly worsening his condition.
Siwezi kusema mtu amempiga sababu kila siku huwa tunaitiwa kwenda beba kama ameanguka. Sasa siwezi kusema ati mtu ameua yeye. Ni hii bila kukunywa pombe bila kukula, hiyo lazima pombe itaua wewe.
Wanawake nikiona kama anakunywa pombe najisikia vibaya. Sisikii vizuri hata nikimuelezea mtoto wangu achana na mambo ya pombe. Ananiambia mama achana na mimi. Mimi niko kwangu.
Bali tu leo tu nimeitwa kwamba amefanya nini? Amekufa. Kuja kuhakikisha na ukapata kweli amekufa. Hii pombe inaonekana alikunywa hapa na akija hapa ilikuwa ni kama alikuwa amekunywa pombe pale pengine na kaja kaongezea hapa.
The area residents have blamed a section of brewers in the area for operating without licenses and politicians for issuing handouts to youth who end up drinking irresponsibly.
Na hasa wakati huu wa campaigns, vijana wakishapewa pesa na wale candidates wanakimbilia pombe. Tunajaribu kuwashika na kutestroy hii pombe, but na hii sheria ndio imeelekeza kamba kidogo. Because unashika mtu leo, unapeleka police station, within one day amerudi.
Meanwhile, in Navaholo area, a family has exhumed the body they had buried after discovering it was not that of their kin, Bishop Emmanuel Shamwata Munala. The family is said to have picked the wrong body from Kakamega mortuary and buried it, only to be notified by the other family of the mix-up.
Sherehe ambayo tunafanya ya mwenda sake sio Emmanuel Shamwata. Kumba ilikuwa Emmanuel mwingine anaitwa Emmanuel Shionga kutoka Kabarasi. Hii mambo imetushangaza. Wakati tulipokea habari kweli tumeenda Kakamega mortuary, tumepata mwili wa Obasia pato huko kule.
Tumefanya hata mambo yote, tumeishiwa hata pesa sijui tutatoa wapi. Tumeangalia kila upande, tumemaliza vitu kwa maboma yote.
Now, away from that particular roundup on matters crime, we focus on matters business, where Kenyan farmers are urging China to consider exempting Kenya avocado from import duty. Horticultural Crop Directorate Director Benjamin Tito says a 7% import duty levied on Kenyan avocado exporters in China is high and eats into earnings, and wants the fruit zero-rated.
Exporters have been certified to export fresh avocados to China after a tour of their facilities. Another Kenyan fresh avocado consignment is expected in the Chinese market within 24 days.
These 15 orchards, 9 pack houses and 1 fumigation facility as a good quarantine, pest management and traceability system to be able to meet the requirements for export of fresh avocados to People's Republic of China.
In a bid to increase exports to the Asian nation, Kenya is calling on the Chinese government to consider zero-rating import duty on Kenyan avocados, just as with the case with shipments from Peru, which is the largest avocado exporter to China.
We'll do what must be done to protect the Kenyan industry and our farmers. So we'll still be able to engage on discussions other than the waivers and the rest to see ways in which we can be able to partner with the Chinese government so that we can be able to benefit more for our farmers.
And we are negotiating now with the China government to reduce it to zero because Peru has a preferential trade agreement where they're at zero duty. So we are now negotiating with China to see if they will accept us to go to zero.
Kenya is also seeking to increase avocado export to Egypt and South Africa to offset the losses occasioned by the trade embargo placed on Russia, which was Kenya's largest importer of Fuerte avocado variety.
We've been able to supply South Africa, which has been our greatest competitor in the African continent, so that is still a market that we need also to pursue.
Since March this year, Kenya has so far exported 44 million kilos of avocados, worth 6 billion shillings, with earnings expected to increase due to shipments to China and progress in export talks to India and Pakistan.
Well, that effectively puts matters to arrest in as far as matters business are concerned. Remember, further details are available on our website. And just to note that the Commonwealth Games are still underway and KBC Channel 1 has been broadcasting them to you live. And some of the games to watch today, including the 100 meters race, where the fastest man in Africa is going to be taking place. I'm talking about Ferdinand Omanyala there, who qualified there for the semi-finals. That is going to be taking place tonight at 9:18 p.m. And you can bet that Kenya Broadcasting Corporation is going to be televising this feat live. And also Kenya also started on a good note in as far as the athletics under 20 championship that started on Monday are concerned, with Betty Chelangat striking the first gold in the 3,000 meters race, while Nancy Cherop there clinched the bronze. This is just but a sneak peek that we have on as far as matters sports in this particular daily is concerned. Remember, further details are still on our website there. Now, taking to the front page of the daily that I have with me in studio, it's all about the upcoming elections that are just 5 days away. So we have 4 contenders who are going to be eyeing the presidency. So are you ready to vote? And is the IEBC ready and committed to deliver a free and fair election? They say they are, after yesterday ensuring and notifying Kenyans that they can now go verify their voter registration details at their respective polling stations. And this happened to be a majority of public schools that are going to be used as polling stations. Go check your name and your details. Remember, if you are found missing or if you are missing from that particular register, you'll not be able to cast your vote. And if you lose or misplace or you do not have on your person the document that you used to register for the elections, well, you might not also participate in that particular civic activity, which is your duty to elect the next government that is going to enforce governance and leadership for the next 5 years at least. So the front page, it reads high stakes, the 10 big names to watch. Who are they and why are they important 5 days to the August 9th polls? So the 10 happen to be, the man at the center is none other than the IEBC chair, that is Wafula Chebukati, who is the presidential returning officer. And he is a referee in this particular match. In colloquial language, as you said, this is indeed a match. And IEBC, the elections are quite emotive. We know that. Now, IEBC, through its actions, can inspire confidence before the elections and during the transmission of results. And going by that particular report yesterday, where we saw the activity happening down at the Bomas of Kenya, that is the National Tallying Center, is that the chair and his team continued to exude confidence that they are ready to deliver a credible election. And also appeals coming there from multi-stakeholder Persons are led by Archbishop Olesa Pitt, who implored on Kenyans to cast their ballot and head home and not mill around the bomas of Kenya. Besides, the polling stations the results that are going to be announced from the polling stations as per law are indeed the right numbers, or rather the right votes. So the IEBC working at the bomas is just to verify and announce the results that have already been collected. That is what you say, Form 35 from the 34C, so to speak. So the 10 names to watch, the big names. We start off with on this particular paper we have Kenya Kwanza flag bearer, that is William Ruto. Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya Alliance, Raila Odinga there. We also have the C Communication Authority of Kenya is also going to heavily feature in the next few days. We have pictured there is Chiloba. We also have Martha Koome there as the Chief Justice. We have President Uhuru Kenyatta there. Remember, he has already shown his support for the Azimio flag bearer Raila Odinga and continues drumming up support for him, saying as a person, as an individual, as a Kenyan, he has a right to pick a preferred candidate, and his is none other than Raila Odinga. We also have Karanja Kibisho there, and Matiang'i as well as Mutiambai featuring among the 10 people to watch, and these are the men and women who carry the hopes and fears of a nation. Further details, you can get yourself a copy of this particular daily. Also featured on this particular daily, the front page is abrupt school closure leaves students stranded. We did a spot check as KBC Channel 1. We saw a number of students stranded at various bus termini following that particular directive. Then also we have the survey, Ipsos as well as Infotrack there, giving their reports there, indicating that Raila is still holding the lead, with his main contender, rather competitor, being William Ruto of Kenya Kwanza. That's just but a sneak peek of what we have on this particular daily. I'd want to hand you over to Victor to bring you up to speed with what the dailies have on the other side. Victor, to you.
All right, and with 5 days to go, believe me, next week at such a time we'll be counting on different figures, already having known who has won in which particular, governor, senator, woman rep, and any other position that will be contested next week general election. So let's take a look at what we have on our local dailies. Let me start with the Star here. On the front page of the Star newspaper, Uhuru secrets Kisumu Kakamega meetings. Uhuru secret Kisumu Kakamega meetings. Kenyatta tells Luo leaders not to let him down on Odinga's bid, ensure huge turnout. Now, it said that the gathering was attended by current elected leaders and candidates only. That is what's on the front page of the Star. Over 100 families flee after 8 burnt to ashes in Turkana raid. It's also reported or suspected, as per the area chief, who is Captain Ikiru, who said that the suspects are the rustlers who torched the homesteads, and as of now, Sumba Mood has engulfed Napi Tom village in Turkana East after the Sunday night attack where 8 people were burnt to ashes by suspected Pokot bandits. At the same time, a minor was also abducted in the raid by people that the area chief suspect came from Tiati in Baringo County. All right. Wrong body buried. Family seeks help for pastor's fresh send-off. It's a story here that it happened in the western part of Kenya, where a family in Eloai village in Navaholo, Kakamega County, was shocked to discover that they buried the body of a stranger, believing it was their loved one. Now, confusion started when they took a body with the same name of a different body which was at the mortuary. So the person they buried had a similar name, Emmanuel Shionga. And they said that they spent over 500,000 shillings on the funeral expenses, and they now are drained financially. And so they are now planning to exhume the body and give their kin a decent burial. Families flee after 8 burnt to ashes in Turkana Women in county have now vowed to hold polls over insecurity. We saw the Interior Ministry led by CS Matiang'i yesterday in Nakuru saying that they have beefed up security in parts of Molo and other parts of Rift Valley, and there should be no issues at all. Secret of Uhuru's night meetings with Luhya leaders. It said that sources who attended the meeting disclosed that the president told them that his heart was with Raila Odinga and he wants to hand over power to the former opposition leader. And he said that this can only happen if voters came out to cast their ballot. Word has it that not even the president's bodyguards were allowed in the meeting room, which was attended by over 200 leaders, both elected and Azimio aspirants from all the 4 Nyanza counties. That is that. And very quickly, finally, we've alerted EU over Uhuru's illegal activities, says Gachagua. We have alerted AU and EU over Uhuru's illegal activities, says Gachagua. Says that they want the global community to rein in on Kenyatta to avert lacking disaster. How that is going to pan out will be an interesting bit. Remember, AU and EU are official observers in the forthcoming general election. Doreen.
All right, now with just the recent directive from the Ministry of Education that schools needed to be closed for the purpose of this election, again knowing fully well that good number of these schools, particularly public schools, serve as polling center. Now school heads are finding themselves in a crisis, and this is particularly in terms of food, transport crisis following this closure. Just going by what a majority of head teachers are saying is that they had already, procured the services of suppliers, particularly when it comes to some of these items, but now they'll just end up going bad, seeing that learners are not in schools, at least for this week up until elections are concluded. And also just citing the fact that, again, teachers had begun setting the midterm exams. So again, also just that puts them in a bit of confusion. But remember that also the ministry has said that schools again will be reopened on 10th. This is exactly just after,
I'm told that Regina has got something to talk about on the other side of studio. I don't know. Regina, what's pinching you?
Well, it seems that the communication from the other side isn't as clear. Just to remind you that if you need further details in regard to stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours, our website is up and running, and that is www.kbc.co.ke. Now we continue with those stories that have been making headlines as captured by the various dailies that we have with us in studio. And a big win against terrorism. This is what international the global world is saying in regard to the killing of an Al-Qaeda leader who had evaded the U.S. capture for 21 years after the suicide airliner attacks that changed America and its relations with the rest of the world. Who are we talking about? Al-Zawahiri. I just want to read a few bits of who and why Ayaman and why did the USA kill him. Now, according to this particular report, an Egyptian Al-Zawahiri was born on the 19th of June in 1951 and had a comfortable family. He also worked as an eye surgeon as a young adult, and he merged with his own Egyptian militant group with Al-Qaeda in the course of his years. And after the years of quietly assembling the suicide attackers, funds and plans for the September 11th attack, Zawahiri and lieutenants ensured that Al-Qaeda survived the global manhunt that followed that attack. Remember the 9/11 attack there? He was part and parcel one of the ring leaders that ensured that this came to pass. 21 years he has been at large, and now the US has confirmed that he was actually killed in an airstrike there by a CIA drone. And this particular article goes further to give the details of the R9X missile that is fitted with lasers and is dropped onto the target. It gives a whole description on why the Macabre Hellfire R96 was effective in this particular takeout of al-Zawahiri there. Now, according to Joe Biden, the U.S. president, clear and convincing, I authorized a precision strike that would remove him from the battlefield once and for all. This measure was carefully planned rigorously to minimize the risk of harm to other civilians. We'll be keeping tabs on that. Remember, Kenya is not, spared either when it comes to matters of terrorism. While you're talking about the 9/11, we already had the 1997 August bombing, whose anniversary is just but some few days away there, and we lost Kenyans, and that still remains fresh over 10 years. We also have the Dusit D2 being the recent attack, especially within the capital city there, where we also lost Kenyans there, and the grisly one that took away the lives of students there at the Garissa University. So Kenya is not immune to matters of terror. So indeed, this is a win then against terrorism. So that's a story that has been given in detail there in this particular article, in this particular paper. Now, matters of politics continue also taking center stage in this particular paper, 5 days to the elections, and we'd want to focus on what you need to know. Who are undecided voters, and why have others changed their voting intention? That's a good question, and that is what this article is actually talking about. So the undecided, the first point is to look at the proportion. We have had different polls. We have the TIFA poll. You also have Ipsos there coming on with a survey. It's knowing exactly who are these undecided, what is their demographic, what is their age group, where are they found, what is influencing their decision not to participate in these upcoming elections. So quoted here in this particular article is that among those who mentioned an intention to vote for any candidate, only 26% have gone beyond primary school, whereas more than double this figure, that is 56%, who do not mention any candidate are within this lower education bracket. So reasons for being undecided is that the self-professed undecided voter is provided by the distribution response, and that's the main thing. So where are they? Then also to the political party self-identification, the issue of confidence in the election and the integrity of it. The question of integrity of the elections has been coming up for in the run-up to the elections, with a section of critics coming and saying, you know what, we do not think that the IEBC is going to conduct a fair election. On the other hand, is that the IEBC, as the Commission has said, that it will execute its mandate with precision and allow for free and fair elections with just 5 days to go. So this particular article just goes to try and answer that question: who are the undecided voters, and why aren't they voting? Remember, we have various surveys there that indicate that Raila Amolo Odinga also continues to have a lead. We have Infotrack there that was released its poll on August 2nd. TIFA conducted its poll on July 28th, and Ipsos as well on 2nd of August. They're showing that at least 6%, 5.2%, and 3.8% of Kenyans, cut across all those surveys, are still undecided as to who if they are going to be voting and who they are going to be voting for. But statistics are glaring and show that 3 out of 4 polls placed Raila ahead days to the general election. I think this brings a cap to matters in the headlines there, as we look at stories that have been making headlines. Just to remind you that we're going to be broadcasting some of the races and other games that are taking place at the Commonwealth Games, which are underway in Birmingham, UK there, and we're going to be watching the performance of Ferdinand Omanyala, the Africa's fastest man, at exactly 9:18 p.m. tonight for the 100 meters semi-finals there. Further details are available on our website. I'm Regina Manyara. I wish you a pleasant viewing ahead.
Kwa miaka 11 Minto FM imekuwa pamoja nanyi ikiwapa burudani na kuwaelimisha. Na sasa tunawaalika mashabiki wetu tujumuike pamoja kwa tamasha la Minto Night. Tarehe 6 mwezi Agosti tutakuwa na Minto Night huko Winspark Resort Kisii. Wanamuziki kama vile Kwasa, Embarambamba na wengine watakuwa site kuwaburudisha. Siku ya Jumapili tarehe 7 Agosti, Minto FM itaandaa maombi ya shukrani na kuombea uchaguzi wa amani katika uwanja wa Itiero Primary School kuanzia saa 3 asubuhi. Waimbaji wa nyimbo za dini wakiwemo Evangelist Eric Mwaniki, Molly Kemunto na wengineo watakuwemo. Nyote mwalikwa.
Minto FM yenye karuga y'ubusi.
The 2022 Commonwealth Games will be hosted in Birmingham, United Kingdom from the 28th of July through the 8th of August 2022. Team Kenya is set to make its 17th appearance at the Games. Kenya will contest for medals in several disciplines, among them athletics, boxing, hockey, rugby, weightlifting, wheelchair basketball and parasports, among others. Watch the Games live on KBC Channel 1. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
All right, now let me get you through the Daily Nation. On the front page, Raila favorite to win, says poll. First round victory depends on 7% undecided voters. Two polls released yesterday indicate that Raila has gained over Ruto in the last 1 month after statistical ties in the previous popularity tests. So according to the polls, Raila has 49%, that is according to the Nation Media Group poll, and Ruto has 41%. 5 days to the general election next Tuesday. 3 surveys released yesterday by Nation Media Group, Infotrack and Ipsos Synovate also show Odinga has stretched his lead to between 6 and 9 percentage points and significantly beyond the margin of error, pointing to the beginning of the end of a statistical dead heat as both camps ramp up their campaigns. That is on the front page of the Daily Nation. Quickly into the next page here. Raila widens lead against DP Ruto in new poll that I've given you already. 4 candidates, it's time to learn from the numbers. Raila and Ruto teams should not be celebrating or throwing tantrums. What are they getting from the campaigns they're having? Repeat poll or round one win is up to the undecided, according to the polls. Only two pollsters have had the two leading presidential candidates over the 50% plus one mark. While the pollsters' definition of the undecided is not standard, their numbers show that the contest will have a winner in the first round if the undecided voters make up their mind or if they abstain from voting altogether. Now, a first round win of 50% plus one can only be achieved if the winner gets at least 8.63 million votes, assuming a voter turnout of at least 78%, as was the case in 2017. When pollsters got it all wrong, that's another beat here. The other side of it, Kenyans have been treated to many opinion polls, but going by the past two elections, pollsters get it wrong at times. We have got Ipsos Innovate lead researcher there, Tom Wolf, who says that ODM leader Ludinga in the lead for the presidential was declared winner. That is in 2017. With elections barely 5 days away, Kenyans have been treated to numerous opinion polls forecasting what the actual general election results would look like. And going by the past two elections, at times, the polls get it all wrong. So how is it going to be this time around? That is only a question that will be answered come next week at such a time. Yeah, so to speak. That is on the front page of the Daily Nation. Let me take you through the People Daily here. Polls put Raila ahead of Ruto again. Azimio advantage. Latest surveys give former Prime Minister Odinga clear lead with his base saying that they back him for being a liberator. SDP comes second, but large numbers of respondents still undecided. More or less the same what is captured on the Daily Nation. Uhuru Commission's shipyard. This is after the first ship which was under construction by the Kenya Navy, Kenya Defence Forces and a Dutch company finally got its lifeline in Kisumu. Now, according to the polls here, which was conducted by Infotrak, Raila has 49%, Ruto has 42%. Tifa in Nairobi, Raila has 52%, and Ruto has 34% in Nairobi County. Tifa, according to them, Raila is leading in Kajiado County with 52% and Ruto coming in second with 34%. According to the Ipsos general accumulation of the figures there, Raila has 47%, Ruto 43%. Schools in food transport crisis following closure. Head teachers say that stock of perishable foodstuff will go to waste after learners left for home yesterday. Most of the parents and even guardians were caught unawares because they had planned for later this week, Saturday, and the CS said that the earlier or the announcement which was made by the Education Ministry was a final. Survey, Raila ahead of Ruto but short of first round win. Duo must now fight tooth and nail to woo undecided voters to guarantee either of them outright victory. That is what's on the we have it here on the People Daily. But interestingly, Tifa says that Sakaja Lenku most popular governor candidates. Kajiado Governor Joseph Olenku and Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja are likely to be elected governors for their respective counties next week. That is according to the Tifa poll, which was conducted between July 27th and 28th. Lenku, who is seeking re-election on an ODM ticket, was supported by 36% of those polled, while former Governor David Nkedienye of Jubilee received 25%. And so as far as that is concerned, we haven't insulted Uhuru, says Ruto. Deputy President claims that he is innocent of the allegations and instead names Raila's associates as major culprits. The DP was speaking in Nyeri yesterday. That is what we have on the People Daily. Very quickly on to this term. Yeah, I've taken you through the front page of the Star. But for the sake of people who didn't have it, Uhuru secret Kisumu, Kakamega meetings. Kenyatta tells Luo leaders not to let him down on Odinga's bid, ensure huge turnout. The gatherings was attended by current elected leaders and candidates only. That is on the front page of the Star newspaper here. Gachagua, we appeal to the international community over Uhuru illegal activities. Giving you more details on that, saying that they want the global community to rein in on Kenyatta to avert lacking disaster. Gachagua said that they will not cause violence should their main opponent, Raila Odinga, defeat them. That's a good indicator there. The presidential contest has shaped into a two-horse race between Ruto and Raila, with majority of recent polls predicting a dead heat without a clear round one winner. So Gachagua said that they want the international community to rein in on President Kenyatta to avert lacking a disaster ahead of next week's general election. And something related to that talk of disaster, the CS for Interior, Fred Matiang'i, was in Nakuru yesterday, and he said that more security sent to Molo, Kurisoi and Eldoret ahead of general election. Additional security has been sent to those parts, with Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i saying that the decision was informed by election cycle precedents and intelligence briefs. So the National Security Council ordered beefing up of security in the areas. According to Matiang'i, he made the revelations after a meeting with the Rift Valley Regional Security Committee at Mary Mount School in Molo. The areas have in the past been centers of attacks before the polls to scare voters. And on that note, he revealed that 8 suspects linked to leaflets circulating in parts of Rift Valley threatening certain communities to vote for some leaders or risk eviction had been arrested. And that's a good indicator, so to speak. Okay, Raila pushes for 100% turnout to lock DP out of Nyanza. He says that polls will be won depending on how his bases will come out to vote on Tuesday. And basically, this is the strategy that now all the contestants are now deploying, just to go to their strongholds and push their supporters to come out in large numbers and have that 100% voter turnout. IEBC official security beefed up ahead of Tuesday's polls. The commissioners were speaking yesterday at Bomas of Kenya during a press briefing. The security of senior electoral commission officials has been beefed up as the country gears up for the Tuesday's general election. IEBC Commissioner Abdi Gulie on Tuesday said that all officials overseeing the elections have been guaranteed of their safety during and after the election. Something to comment about. All right, so that is as far as the People Daily, the Star, is concerned. And on that story about President Kenyatta meeting Luhya and Luo leaders in State House in Kisumu and State Lodge in Kakamega, respectively, it said that the meeting was attended by more than 200 leaders, both elected and Azimio aspirants from all the 4 Luo Nyanza counties. Not even the president's bodyguards were allowed in the meeting room. And according to the sources, the president told the leaders that his heart was with Raila Odinga, and that can only happen if the voters cast their ballots in full numbers. So that is as far as the People Daily is concerned. All right, there we have it. Quickly on to the Daily Nation on the inner beat of it. There's a story here about incumbent governors lead with 5 days to elections. And most of the governors who are here, we have got Kakamega County, Busia County, Trans Nzoia, Narok County, Vihiga, and so much more. We have got incumbent governors who are leading. We have got Otichilo of Vihiga County, Nyamira County, 60% of the voters, those polled in Kisii County said that they are supporting Simba Arati, followed by Ezekiel Machogu with 12%. In Homa Bay, we have got two contestants. That is Gladys Wanga, in the lead with 51%, followed by Evans Kideru at 34%. In Migori County, Oshila Yako, 42%, followed by John Pesa, 24%. In Kisumu County, Governor Nyong'o still leading at 71%, followed by former Governor, that is Jackton Ranguma, at 15%. Ranguma came back after he was defeated by Governor Nyong'o in the last general election. In Uasin Gishu, we have got Jonathan B. with 44%, Zedekiah Buzeki with 21%. And finally, in Kajiado, Lenku is leading with 29%, followed by David Kendianye at 26%. That is as far as the polls are concerned. So that is it. Uhuru, why I finally settled on Raila to be my successor. This is an interesting read that I would urge you to take a look at that story. You can grab a copy of the Daily Nation and take a look at that. Uhuru is a joke for supporting Raila's State House bid, says Ruto. The DP say that he is confident he will trounce Odinga in Tuesday's general election. He was in Nyeri yesterday with his Kenya Kwanza Brigade, just trying to solidify his voting bloc that in central Kenya. So that is as far as Daily Nation is concerned. All right, at that particular point, Director, it's time for a break.
Born in 1930 in Thika, Tom Joseph Mboya's entry into politics was through the trade union movement. At the age of 28, that is in 1958, Tom Mboya became chairman of the East, Central and Southern Area Committee of the International Confederation of Free Trade Unions.
Let us hope that change there will be. But this change cannot be in terms of pious resolutions and words. It's got to be translated into action.
And became chairman of the All-African People's Conference in Ghana. Same year in 1958, Mboya visited Ghana, where Kwame Nkrumah advised him to form a political party with grassroots support. He formed the Nairobi People's Convention Party. The party adopted the slogan, Uhuru na Kenyatta.
There is a distinction, for example, between what we believe in as socialists and what the communists believe in. There is a basic distinction.
The party lasted 3 years and later merged with KANU in 1960. Mboya became the first Secretary General of KANU. In 1962, Mboya attended the Second Lancaster House Conference. The conference was to draft a constitution for independent Kenya. He was appointed to chair the committee in charge of drafting KANU's view at the conference. He served in the cabinet in 1962 when he was appointed Minister for Labour in the coalition government of KANU and KADU. In this capacity, he drew up the Labour Relations Charter to regulate the relations between employers and employees. In 1963, he was appointed Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs and was involved in the constitutional amendments which made Kenya a republic in 1964. In 1964, Mboya was appointed Minister for Planning and Economic Development. He drafted and published the sessional paper number 10 of 1965 on African socialism and its application to planning in Kenya, which was the basis of Kenya's economic development.
Will you press for the release of Jomo Kenyatta?
Certainly, yes. How? Again, by intensifying our efforts and more pressure on the British government and also the Kenya government, and using whatever influences we've gained from this present constitution for further efforts to secure his release.
Mboya also produced the 1966 to 1970 development plan for Kenya. As Secretary General of KANU, Mboya organized the Limuru Conference of March 1966, which resolved the conflict between radicals and moderates in KANU through fresh elections in the party. This meeting resolved to abolish the position of Vice President and replaced it with 7 Vice Presidents, 1 from each of the 6 regions and 1 for Nairobi, with the purpose of removing Jaramogi Oginga Odinga from the post of Vice President of the party. Mboya is known for organizing the famous student airlift, which boosted education in Kenya through his contact with John F. Kennedy, who later became the US president. In 1963, he published an autobiography, Freedom and After, in which he expressed great optimism for the future of Kenya. On 5th July 1969, Tom Mboya was shot dead outside a chemist on Nairobi's Government Road, now Moi Avenue. Jackie Wambiru for the Cabinet.
Born on 31st March 1932 in Nyahera village, Kisumu County, Robert John Ouko is arguably one of the most recognizable names in the history of Kenya's public service. Ouko, an alumni of Haile Selassie University in Ethiopia and Uganda's Makerere University, worked as an assistant secretary in the office of the governor, Malcolm MacDonald, in pre-independent Kenya before his political career took off. A man of many hearts, Ouko served as chairman of the governing council of the International Labour Organization in the 1970s, had a stint as permanent secretary in 2 ministries, Works and Foreign Affairs, with the latter earning him a reputation amongst his peers both locally and internationally. Rob, as referred to by close friends, was appointed Community Minister for Finance and Administration in 1969 upon the formation of the East Africa Community EAC, originally comprised of Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania. After the collapse of the EAC in 1977, he was recalled and nominated as an MP by President Jomo Kenyatta, who then appointed him Minister for Economic Planning and Community Affairs. President Daniel Arap Moi, who succeeded the late Jomo Kenyatta in 1978, retained Ouko in his cabinet on account of his prowess in leadership. As Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ouko had an impeccable record under President Moi for 6 years, between 1979 and 1983, and again from 1988 to 1990, during one of the Republic's most turbulent times.
On my part, as a leader of this delegation, and also as chairman of the OAU Council of Ministers, I am satisfied that it is the wish of the French government to assist Africa in implementing the Resolution 435 in order to avoid further bloodshed in Namibia.
Ouko was elected to Parliament in the 1979 general elections as the MP for Kisumu Rural Constituency, a seat he retained in the 1983 elections. He would then shift his local politics to Kisumu Town, where he was elected MP in 1988. On January 27, 1990, Ouko, together with some 83 senior government officials, accompanied then President Daniel Arap Moi to the annual National Prayer Breakfast in Washington, D.C. A week after his return to Kenya, Ouko's mutilated and partially burnt body was discovered in a thicket near Gota Lila in Kisumu. Robert Ouko's murder remains a mystery despite investigations by the Scotland Yard that saw top government officials questioned, among them Cabinet Minister Nicholas Biwott, Internal Security Permanent Secretary Hezekiah Yugi, and Nakuru District Commissioner Jonah Anguka. Ouko's demise gave rise to many theories, among them that a meeting with the then US President George W.H. Bush Sr. may have created some bad blood between him and a senior colleague in cabinet. 30 years on, after numerous pledges that no stone will be left unturned, the case remains unsolved. In his memory, Ouko's widow and children built an ultra-modern community library and a state-of-the-art primary school at his Koru home. For the Cabinet, I'm Richard Munga.
After sourcing for coconuts from the market, a consignment of coconuts arrives here at the Kenya Industrial Research and Development Institute, KIRDI. The coconuts are first cleaned with water. They're then put in an oven or dryer. They're then taken out of the dryer, where they are manually cracked open to remove or drain the fluid.
They crack the nut to remove the water because what they're interested in at the moment is only the fresh.
It is then required to separate the coconut shell from the coconut kernel, where after the separation, the coconut kernel is then immersed in water containing sodium metabisulfate to prevent the browning of the coconut during the drying process.
After cracking and removing the fresh from the shell, it's put in water that has SMS, that is sodium metabisulfate, to prevent the browning of the coconut during the drying.
From here, the flesh is traversed to the slicing machine, where the coconut kernels are sliced into thinner slices and put back into the oven, which has a capacity of 100 kgs to dry at a temperature of 65 degrees Celsius to reduce moisture content.
One is to reduce size reduction for easy drying. Two, also for client preference. They won't eat big chunks of coconut, but they want them into snack-like shapes. Then you put them into the dryer. We reduce the moisture content so that they don't start molding.
From here, the coconut bites are packaged and are now ready for distribution. Jackie Wambiru, The Process.
The 2022 Commonwealth Games will be hosted in Birmingham, United Kingdom from the 28th of July through the 8th of August 2022. Team Kenya is set to make its 17th appearance at the Games. Kenya will contest for medals in several disciplines, among them athletics, boxing, hockey, rugby, weightlifting, wheelchair basketball and para-sports, among others. Watch the Games live on KBC Channel 1. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
But did I lose my babies?
Only one of them. That's why you felt sick and you woke up all bloated.
Don't ever do that, Adrian. Do you think I'm so helpless that I won't be able to earn a living for myself? No.
I don't even know how to approach you. I've forgotten you for many years.
And you?
We heard about what happened, son. We came to see you.
Get out. Get out of here.
Renea, please.
Go away.
Kwa miaka 11 Minto FM imekuwa pamoja nanyi ikiwapa burudani na kuwaelimisha. Na sasa tunawaalika mashabiki wetu tujumuike pamoja kwa tamasha la Minto Night. Tarehe 6 mwezi Agosti tutakuwa na Minto Night huko Winds Park Resort Kisii. Wanamuziki kama vile Kwasa Kwasa, Embarambamba na wengine watakuwa site kuwaburudisha. Siku ya Jumapili tarehe 7 Agosti, Minto FM itaandaa maombi ya shukrani na kuombea uchaguzi wa amani katika uwanja wa Itiero Primary School kuanzia saa 3 asubuhi. Waimbaji wa nyimbo za dini wakiwemo Evangelist Eric Mwaniki, Molly Kemunto na wengineo watakuwemo. Nyote mwalikwa.
Minto FM yenye karuga y'ubusi.
Welcome back, and now let's take a look at a completely different kind of topic. With only 5 days to go to the polls, we have got a lot happening across the country with the stakes, so high for the politicians running across the country, different regions, just solidifying their, their voting blocks and calling out their supporters to come out in large numbers and support them. The background of this discussion is, as human beings, we are always ready for a win. But the question is, are we ready to lose? Okay, well, let me ask it. We are always ready to win, but are we ready to lose? So what happens if one loses in an election? Because it's an emotional kind of an event, and many people get into different situations in life thereafter. 5 days to go. The honest truth is, one person will be declared a winner and others will lose. That's why it's called a contest. So we have to prepare ourselves for such situations. That is why in studio I have got Dr. Caroline Vundi, who is a psychiatrist with the Chiromo Hospitals Group, ready to give us everything that we need to know before we head to the polls. Karibu Daktari.
Thank you so much for having me.
Are you a registered voter to start with?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes.
I believe that I need to exercise my right to vote, and I don't believe in being a passive citizen when it comes to the election.
Yes.
But in the same way, I do respect people who don't want to vote. I just have chosen that I need to exercise this right. Yeah.
Please don't tell me who you'll vote for. That is a secret. And all I will have to get to know is that ink that you have voted. Have you ever lost in any battle in your life?
Absolutely. Let me give you a bit of a background.
Right.
So before becoming a psychiatrist, I went to medical school, right? Now, before going to medical school, you are the top of the class, creme de la creme. Then you go to medical school and you've met everybody else who is top of the class. So what happens? You're not number one anymore. So for me, I do know that experience of not being number one. Then it teaches you, keep trying, do better, do better. So yes, I have experience with that.
How does it feel losing in a contest?
Challenging, heartbreaking, emotional. It's a very, very emotional time. But again, as I said, eventually makes you better because you get back into the game. You try harder. So for me, what it did for me is I had to look around and say, okay, maybe I can't be the best, but I'll have to keep trying.
Right.
Maybe I'm not the best right now, but I can try again.
The reason why I'm asking that question is that election is just 5 days away, and many people have spent years, campaigning, so to speak, months of intense campaigns, resources deployed. Some of them have even lost their jobs, resigned from their previous jobs, 8 to 5. Some of them have spent, their savings into campaigns, and right now, others are even seeking for Harambes to run their campaigns.
Yes.
Come next week, we'll only have one winner, one woman rep, one governor, one president, one MCA. The rest of the guys will go back home. And that is where that point of stress will kick in. Give me a situation a day after an election and someone has lost.
All right, that's a very, very, very good question. I'll start first with the build-up. I love the way that you've painted the picture because sometimes we don't see politicians as human beings. We look at them in the TV and we think they're this superstar or this person who has no emotions or, So I like the build-up that you've created. Somebody has spent time, money, energy, investing. It's actually an investment.
Yes.
Then the day after the election, they've not lost. Immediately, the first thing that comes to mind is anxiety. Okay? The person, even when they're declaring or counting the votes, you can imagine the anxiety level. It's as if, let me take you back to high school, when we were waiting for our exam results, the anxiety feeling.
Please don't remind me. Please don't remind me.
And the symptoms of anxiety are there. Chest tightness, your heart is beating, what we call palpitations, not sleeping. I'm not sure they can sleep the night before, the votes are declared. So anxiety is there, all right? Then obviously depression. Depression, because now they are thinking, I have to look for money. There's the shame. There's the shame you've lost. There is shame. So depression is a very, very, very common symptom of that failure. And one that comes immediately after is substance use, alcoholism.
Yeah.
Because now I've lost, I have no sense of purpose. People are probably following me for debts. They're collecting their money. So what do? I run to the bar. So we see a lot of politicians who, have gotten depressed and they just end up turning to the bottle or, God knows what else. So depression, anxiety, and substance use. And all this, by the way, imagine having all this. Of course, somebody's going to age more quickly.
Yes.
Somebody's going to be at risk of even physical illnesses, hypertension. Now your blood pressure starts to shoot. Okay? So these are just some of the few mental challenges that somebody who has just been told they've lost is at risk of.
It's quite painful that we're talking we're talking about this particular subject before an election. Something that even me, if you ask me, Victor, are you ready to lose? We are always optimistic. Ask a man, hapana, hiyo nitashinda bana. Saa moja asubuhi. By 7:30, he's lost or she's lost.
Yes.
We cover elections and we see how chaotic sometimes it gets.
Yes.
The kicking of boxes, shots being fired, there's a blackout in point A, polling station B, and what have you. A lot of things happen at polling station just because you want to get that particular seat. Are we ready as human beings, more so the politicians? Do you think they're ready to accept that loss?
I don't think human beings are ever ready to lose. Just on a human being level, I don't think anybody is ever ready to lose. So, especially more for a politician who has people around him or her, telling them, hiki tutapata. The people surrounding you can also build you up and make you feel like you're invincible. I feel like that's how a lot of the politicians, they have a lot of people in their ear telling them, there's no way you can lose this thing. So what happens is the head swells, so they're not even losing is not even in their sphere of possibility, right? Interestingly, I don't know if I'm correct, but in the States, they're gearing up for primaries, right? And I was speaking to a friend of mine who lives there and was telling me that there are people in the streets still picketing, okay, and still protesting the Trump loss. That was a while back.
Yes.
There's people who are still with their placards in the street.
Yes.
Still complaining about that loss. So you can imagine, nobody is ever ready for loss. Not in Kenya, not in the States, not anywhere. And politics is a game that maybe I'm not a very good political analyst.
We'll excuse you for that. We'll excuse you for that.
But I feel like it's just this sense of extreme confidence and boldness. I can't lose. So I don't think they're usually ready for that loss. Even the people who we look at and we say this one has no chance, them in their head, they really think, I've got this thing.
So what really happens in a situation, because I am so sure you've met a couple of people who've gone through that process. How do you deal with them?
So for us, we are clinicians, so we are not there to make somebody feel less than. All we do is support. So when it comes to our practice, we usually do two things. So say, for example, a politician has stepped into my clinic a day after the election. They are depressed, they are anxious, maybe they are even now turning to alcohol. What do? I sit with them and I listen. By the way, our craft is all about listening. Then from listening, we make an evaluation, okay? We make an evaluation. Are you depressed? If you're depressed, what is the severity of your depression? Is it mild? Because if it's mild, maybe you just need some sessions of therapy, what we call counseling.
Yeah.
A bit of somebody just to listen to, cry, break down if you need to, okay? If it's severe, do you need medication? And that one is usually a very challenging conversation. Yeah. Because not a lot of people are open to being told, you have depression, you need antidepressants, okay? Sometimes, if it's very, very severe depression, we might need to admit you. So in fact, a lot of times in Chiromo, we admit patients even for rest. You can imagine this politician has lost, right?
Yes.
There are people probably in their house, probably waiting to be paid back. Their opponents are out there taunting their victory, running around and, celebrating. Sometimes we just say, you know what, come in for admission just to get your mind out of this thing. So by the way, sometimes we admit people just what we call respite to get you out of that environment that is causing the stress. All right? And if it's a very, very, very severe case of perhaps addiction and alcoholism, we can even go to the rehab. Okay? So what we do, we take somebody in, we listen to them, assess, and then give the appropriate treatment. Sometimes the appropriate treatment could mean bringing in the whole family for family therapy, because politics destroys families.
It does?
Yes.
It does? And even as we speak, perhaps somebody is struggling with that. Yeah?
You find maybe this person has used all their money on the politics. They have not paid school fees. They have not, the house perhaps is a mess. Everybody is feeling the strain as the family. So sometimes we need to bring in the family and say, let's all sit at the table with a mediator, of course, being now the psychiatrist or the psychologist, to now allow the other family members to talk about how they feel. Children of politicians are suffering. Children of politicians are feeling like the politics is robbing them of fathers, of mothers. And sometimes they can't say, because this politician, remember I said this politician is almost like a godlike character.
Exactly.
How is a young child supposed to tell this godlike character, Daddy, we miss you, we don't see you? So when now we see that dynamic, we have family therapy, where now we can allow the family members to talk to this person and mediate.
Right.
So we actually have a very big assignment ahead of us.
You can imagine as a nation, everything is now charged. one hand is supporting candidate X, another one candidate Y, another one candidate, etc., etc. The whole nation is charged, including the international community. Some countries are supporting Kenya, another one does not support Kenya. But as a nation, are we ready to accept that kind of situation? Election has passed, we voted, and now counting is done, and winners declared. As a nation, do you think we are ready for that transition?
That's a very interesting question. I'd say it depends. There are always people who are very ready to accept, and then there are always those who are not. So there's a push and pull, okay? So there are people who, of course, whatever the outcome, then they just want to move on with life, go back to work, keep it moving. But there will be those, of course, who feel aggrieved. So what do we do about this situation? And I actually love that we're having this conversation, because I would really like to tell every single person, wherever you are, in your sphere of influence, try and become that kind of a calming force. Because, we can't always expect the politicians at the top to tell us, Tulia, let us accept. We also need to do it wherever we are. You at your house, at your estate, at your church, even at work. If you notice there's somebody who perhaps feels very tight about the outcome, you have a role to play as a citizen to kind of bring this person down. Let us not wait until things escalate, so that until now we are getting the advice from the top that, people, you need to accept, let's do what we can where we can. Yes.
Because, so how do you deal with that situation as a country? Because as we speak, everybody's mind is fixated on August 9th. That has been a song that has been sung for the last 5 years.
Yes.
And you ask even a kid, schools are closed as we speak, and they know we are going for an election. I believe kids have emotions as well, including animals. They have feelings, emotions, all that. But then, the moment an election is over, how do I, even me as a journalist, how do I need to pull up myself, forgetting about what happened 2-3 weeks ago? Election is over. Now I have to transition from that normal lifestyle, quote unquote, back to normal lifestyle of life should continue.
There's something I usually tell my patients, and that is, feel what you need to feel. Don't ever deny your emotions. If you are happy about the outcome, be happy. If you're unhappy, be unhappy. But always regulate yourself. Okay, everything in moderation. So if you're happy, feel happy, but do not now be extremely happy you drink the whole week because so-and-so is now the new governor. Do you understand?
Right.
So on an individual level, be moderate in expressing yourself, okay? Human beings, you've said a very interesting point that even children have to feel what they feel. So I do believe that even with children, we've got to kind of communicate with them what's happening. Okay? And I've noticed even when it comes to issues such as tribalism, children pick up from parents what they hear.
Yes. The older generation.
The older generation. So if you're there as a parent and you're watching news and you're saying very bad things about another tribe, your child is listening. And guess what? He will say those things next week when he goes to school. So let us be very cautious about how we communicate with our children. In fact, sit them down and tell them, now we've had an election, so-and-so has won. It doesn't mean anything extreme. We just accept the outcome and move on. Just have a small family meeting in the home, because it starts from, that's how you ingrain it in children, such that even when they're adults, 5-10 years from now, you will have taught them that whatever the outcome, we accept, we move on. Yes.
I want to talk about the level of emotional damage that election will always come along with, and thereafter it's completely eroded and we need to bring it back to our normal selves.
Yes.
Take me through that.
So, of course, as a country, we have a lot of trauma. So the word is actually trauma. Trauma is an experience which elicits an emotional response. So elections have a very traumatic history in Kenya from time immemorial, right?
Yes.
We have experienced, death, We have experienced tension. So whenever elections come, there's always something in the air. I don't know if you're feeling it. I mean, people are tense, kind of.
Exactly.
So it's because of the historical trauma, okay? So on an emotional level, I feel like some people are anxious. Remember the symptoms of anxiety I mentioned?
Yes.
By the way, there are people who are not sleeping, even not the politicians.
Exactly, because of the past experiences.
There are people who are triggered. So a trigger is something that reminds you of your trauma. Say, for example, you were hit by a car 5 years ago. And then now, cars that drive fast are a trigger. That's what I'm talking about. So right now, there are people who are triggered. Everything is a trigger. Even perhaps watching news is a trigger. Even the posters they are seeing, trigger. Okay? So we are all a bit anxious. So what do we do about it? I always say that, number one, you must fully confront your trigger. Using the same example of somebody who's been in an accident.
Yes.
We don't encourage you now never to enter a matatu or a vehicle because you had an accident. We usually encourage, when you have a trigger, confront it. You enter that vehicle, you enter that matatu, but apply safety measures. Put your safety belt, okay? If somebody's speeding, tell them to slow down. So be in control of the trigger.
You manage. You
manage it. So what I'm saying is that I don't encourage people, even if they feel emotional right now, I don't encourage people to hide under there. To bury their head under the sand. I would say still be involved in the political process, exercise your rights, okay, but manage, okay? Don't now be excessively obsessed. There are people who are constantly now watching every single news about politics, everything. You know, that kind of narrative can make you extremely anxious. So be involved, but manage. Don't jump into every conversation about politics. Everywhere you go, you are just asking people, who are you voting for? Kwenu kunaenda aje, you know? Manage. Let us move on with life, but manage your emotions.
Yes. You know, it's quite interesting because anytime we have a discussion with these politicians, I meet them a lot. And you'll talk to someone and you'll think that he's there with you. Kumbe Ouko. His mind is completely somewhere else. Until you, yes, what are you saying?
Triggers.
The kind of, they are not present. They are there, but their minds are far away from you. What happens in such a situation? Because you'd really want to help such a person to develop him or herself, to go to an election, win, but that person has perhaps some kind of a feeling that things are not working out well as it's supposed to be. How do we help such a person? Because we are talking specifically to the contestants and the aspirants. How do we help them?
Actually, that experience you've described is actually a medical psychiatric condition.
Really? So I pass to be a psychiatrist at this particular point.
It is called dissociation.
Right.
Dissociation. Dissociation is where somebody is there, but they are not there. You're talking to them, but they are not present.
Absent-minded.
Completely not there. In fact, I feel like a lot of these politicians are dissociated when they go home. Remember the situation I was telling you about? The politician is home, but they are not home. Their mind is at the ballot.
Yes.
At the, you know, but their family is there. They need them. So they have dissociated. Their mind is not there. So what, in fact, I would like to say that all politicians need a psychiatrist or a psychologist, or at least a wellness coach, somebody to walk with them this journey. In fact, at least, you know, once a month, once a week, they need to have a session, because dissociation happens when you have so many things.
Yes.
You're carrying so many things. Your mind actually decides it cannot do everything. So let home take a break.
Yeah, currently they say mambo ni mengi lakini time ndio hakuna.
Ndio hakuna. Sasa the brain has no capacity to deal with all that, so they depersonalize completely, they dissociate. So what they need perhaps is just a weekly or a monthly session with the psychiatrist, a psychologist, or just a coach. I'm sure you've heard about life coaches.
Exactly.
Just somebody you can talk to at the end of the day and tell them, I'm actually so stressed. I'm not sleeping. My wife is not talking to me. Because these politicians don't have somebody to open up to. Their trust issues.
Yeah.
Because the politician is wondering, you know, I cannot tell the people, you know, my people in my team my issues, because what if they go and tell my opponent? You know, I can't tell you I'm not talking to my wife, because what if that ends up in the tabloid tomorrow? So they need a professional relationship, because for us, whatever a patient tells me is in complete confidentiality.
Right.
So I cannot tell.
It's called oath of secrecy.
Completely. In fact, the only time I can break that oath is if I feel that, you know, perhaps you're going to harm somebody. Like if a patient tells me I'm going to kill so and so tomorrow, that one, of course, I can't keep. I'm obliged to. But anything else is in complete confidentiality. So I do believe that all these politicians need a safe space, even to cry. You know, it's okay to cry.
Yes.
Even just to...
How heavy can it get?
Oh, it can get very heavy, to the point of people feeling suicidal. People feeling that this is too much, I can't handle it, I need to go. And actually yesterday we launched the National Suicide Prevention Strategy.
Good.
And some of the facts that came up were completely alarming. First of all, suicide is completely taking over the young generation from 15 to 29. It's the fourth leading cause of death. Fourth. Number two, it's higher. The rates are higher in men. And we know a lot of our politicians are men.
Yeah.
So the rate of suicide is almost 2 times higher in men. This is because men don't talk. They just keep.
Kangumu kama wanaume.
Kangumu. Wanaume hawali.
That's how society has completely conditioned us to be.
Men don't cry.
Mwanaume unalia nini?
Exactly. Now imagine politician, mwanaume, can't cry, cannot talk to anybody. So you can imagine just the level of stress, and God knows how many of them are suicidal or are thinking of just harming themselves.
Yeah.
So it can get that serious. It can get that serious.
What is the head of a politician? I'm so sure you've met a couple of them coming for sessions, counseling, and just a word. What is usually in the head of a politician? Because as we speak, I can call any of them, they'll not pick. They will not pick. They'll only pick next week, but one after everything is settled. But right now, they will never pick.
Yeah.
What is the head of a politician?
Of course, without revealing too much because of the confidentiality we mentioned.
Sure.
But I'll give you a very good analogy. You know how you can be on the internet in your laptop and you can have many tabs open. There's this tab, there's this one, there's this. That's the mind of a politician. It's like there are about 50 compartments, all of them running at the same time.
I need to pay the PA.
Yes.
My posters are not done.
Yes.
A rally there, women group waiting for me here.
Yes.
Youth group this.
Yeah. So in fact, I feel like, you remember earlier I had said that we've been looking at politicians like they are demigods.
Yes.
We've villainized them so much. There's a lot of anger towards them. I mean, it might be justified, but you know, this is a human being at the end of the day. It's not humanly possible to deal with all this. So I would just say that it's a lot of stress. It's a very high stress, high pressure position. High stress, high pressure position.
And here you're looking at a situation where you have to wake up in the morning on 9th of August and stay there until votes are counted. But then the supporters also play a key role, the mwananchi.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa ni wewe. Mheshimiwa hii ni yako.
Yes.
Do you blame the mwananchi for pushing the mheshimiwa to the edge? Before I come on the side effects of losing an election on the side of mwananchi. Yes.
I would say that I blame both. So that relationship, the politician and mwananchi, it's not one person at fault. It's not the politician, it's not the mwananchi. It's just a dynamic that is toxic. And mwananchi is to blame because of that codependency they've created.
Yes.
It's actually a codependency. I'll give you an example of if you have a family member who is an alcoholic, okay? There's usually a very toxic codependency dynamic sometimes that happens with the parent. So you find this child is an alcoholic, but the parent keeps giving them money, or the parent keeps allowing them, you know, they have an accident today, they go and bail them out and they hunger the policeman. you know, and the accident was hard when the person was drunk. So you see, there's that weird toxic dynamic, but you cannot blame the addict and you cannot blame the parent. This is the same thing that's happening with the Mwananchi and the politicians.
Yes.
So I would definitely say that for the Mwananchi, we need to also elevate the way that we interact with our politicians, because right now what's happening, I was in the village last week. Even the vehicle of the politician cannot pass in peace. People will stop him.
Yeah.
You have to do something for us. You know, is that really how we need to be holding them accountable, as opposed to when they are actually in office, we need to be telling them, you need to do this for us, this dam needs to be fixed. You've been seeing the bus that had an accident and so many people died.
Yes.
But how many Wananchis will hold their politician accountable to something like that? Very few, right? But wakati ya siasa, that's when we are following them around the most. Yeah. I think we need to adjust the way we look at politics and politicians. It's not about that 100 bob, you know. It's not about buy for me unga because next week is election.
Yes.
Let's hold them accountable to a higher standard.
To what they can deliver to us.
What can you deliver? What people don't know what is in the manifesto.
Don't even start.
They don't. They just will wait for them at the village, at the town. Akipita, we need unga, we need this, we need, you know. And then after the election, silence, and we move on. So Mwananchi, we need to elevate how we hold our politicians accountable. Their politicians are not there to pay our bills. They are there to make policies, fix what is wrong in the society, implement laws that actually will help us. You understand? They're not there to give you unga before elections. So this dynamic completely has to change.
Right.
Yeah.
Doctor, our minds as human beings conditioned and wired to see the positive side of life, completely negating the negative bit of it.
Yeah.
Is that how we are as human beings? We are optimistic that anything that brings a failure in us crushes our ego and our emotions, and we just disappear in some dark corner and cry and just vanish like that.
Yeah, human beings sometimes can be very pessimistic, and but you'll find a few who are actually optimistic. The determining factor is the social support. That's the only thing that determines who will crumble after a loss and who will pick themselves up, dust themselves, and keep running. It's the social support. It's the people around you. Because what happens with some politicians is when they lose, everybody goes away.
I think I have a friend of mine who told me that. Let's just take a break, and we come back. I'd want to talk about that one in specific, because you realize that the people who are around you, Mheshimiwa, all of a sudden your phone goes silent and everything else. So let me take a break, and when we come back, we are going to continue that discussion. Election is just next week, but are we ready to lose? Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
The 2022 Commonwealth Games will be hosted in Birmingham, United Kingdom from the 28th of July through the 8th of August 2022. Team Kenya is set to make its 17th appearance at the Games. Kenya will contest for medals in several disciplines, among them athletics, boxing, hockey, rugby, weightlifting, wheelchair basketball and parasports, among others. Watch the Games live on KBC Channel 1. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
But did I lose my babies?
Only one of them. That's why you felt sick and you woke up all bloated.
Don't ever do that, Adrian. Do you think I'm so helpless that I won't be able to earn a living for myself? No.
I don't even know how to approach you. I've forgotten you for many years.
And you?
We heard about what happened, son, and we came to see you.
Get out. Get out of here.
Renea, please.
Go away.
Born in March 1961, Cyrus Jirongo attended Mangu High School between 1978 and 1981, and 10 years later became the chairman of Kenyan football club AFC Leopards. Jirongo was only 31 years of age when he teamed up with the likes of Sam Nyamweya, Fred Kiptanui, and current Deputy President William Ruto, among others, to start the Youth for KANU 92, commonly known as YK 92, the youth movement that supported President Daniel Arap Moi's re-election bid in 1992, following the return of multipartyism. Despite the lobby group's influence in the re-election of President Daniel Arap Moi in 1992, it arguably became politically overzealous. For instance, Jirongo called for the resignation of Professor George Saitoti, which coincided with a walkout from Parliament by opposition members of Parliament in protest against the then Vice President and Minister for Planning and National Development. Jirongo's goose was already cooked. Moi claimed the organization had joined the opposition to undermine his presidency, instead choosing to defend his Vice President, Professor George Saitoti. Jirongo's path to redemption through establishing a power base in Western Kenya would not last long, as he found himself on the wrong side of President Moi, eventually getting detained over possession of unlicensed guns after his houses were raided in search of firearms. Jirongo would become politically relevant once again in 1997 when he was elected Member of Parliament for Lugari constituency. 6 months into his post, he announced plans to run for the presidency in the 2002 general election. In November 2001, Moi announced a major cabinet reshuffle as he appeared to try to change the perception of KANU, bringing in youthful faces in place of the old guard. Jirongo, together with current President Uhuru Kenyatta, were among those who benefited from the changes. Jirongo was appointed Minister for Rural Development, formerly a department within the Ministry of Planning and National Development. After KANU's rule came to an end in the 2002 general election, Jirongo formed the Kenya Africa Democratic Development Union KADU, through which he reclaimed the Lugari parliamentary seat that he had lost in 2002. In his bid to become Kenya's fourth president, Jirongo unsuccessfully vied for the Kakamega senatorial seat in 2013, losing to the eventual winner, Dr. Boni Halwale. In the 2017 general election, Jirongo vied for the presidency under the United Democratic Party. He garnered approximately 11,000 votes, which was 0.07% of the total presidential votes. However, with a repeat election being held after President Uhuru Kenyatta's win was contested in the Supreme Court, Jirongo managed 37,791 votes.
and welcome back. We still have Dr. Caroline Vundi. You know what? One thing which is quite interesting is that nimemuuliza if I'm depressed, and she laughed. So I don't know whether I'm depressed or not. She'll tell me after the show. Welcome back. Now we're talking about the issue of post-election stress management, more specifically to you as a politician, you as a candidate, and to the Mwananchi at large. Dr. Let's talk about the other side of Mwananchi. We've done our bit. We've supported the politicians. Even as media, we have done our part. And the common Mwananchi out there spend sleepless nights with the t-shirts, with the caps, with leaflets, flyers, and what have you, supporting their candidates of choice. And someone will lose next week, sadly, but that is the reality. How does a Mwananchi move past that?
It's obviously tough because Mwananchi, we all invest. Even if you think I won't vote or whatever, you still have an inkling as to who you would like to see in office, right?
Yes.
So what I would say is that remember that every single person is living their own individual lives. And what do I mean by this? Sometimes when during the election time we start to imagine ourselves, it's like we are at the same level as the politicians. All right? But remember that you have your own job, you have your own family, you have your own physical and mental and emotional health
to take care of.
To take care of yourself.
Yes.
And you know, you might get so invested in this election, and if things don't go your way, you decide to take matters into your own hands, and guess what? You're the one who will lose. I mean, I don't like to bring this up, but you remember what happened the other time. You know, when things went really bad and you know, Kenyans took matters into their own hands, but who lost? Whose houses were being burnt? You know, we were all kind of grounded. You know, we couldn't leave our house, and it was a wake-up call that, in as much as we want to think I'm team so and so, actually you're not. You are Victor. I'm Caroline. At the end of the day, it boils down to that. Even if you think I'm team such and such, you're really not so much on the team. All right? You're an individual, you're a human being. And that's how you need to look at other people, that this is a human being.
Yes.
This is not a political party. When I look at you, you're not blue or yellow or green, you're a person. So my message would be, let us just look at people as human beings, as individuals. Even beyond 9th, whatever the outcome, remember that this is a human being, a father, a brother, a sister, a mother. So don't be shielded by whatever color or whatever party, or behind that is a person.
Let's talk about people who will win, because excitement is also you know, we have to moderate the excitement.
Yes, true.
So Victor has won, Caroline has won, she's the woman rep, and yes, so how do we moderate that kind of excitement that to an extent that it doesn't cross over to the other party that is hurting?
I would like to say that for those who win, excitement is good, but remember, you have to hold these people accountable. So don't just get content that tumeshinda.
Yes.
That same excitement, follow up this person that you elected. Follow up and make sure that they're actually delivering. Because winning, fine, great, they've won. But this person said they will do A, B, C, D. Hold them accountable. That same energy you used during the campaign to run around and campaign for your person, that same energy, use it to hold this person accountable.
What are some of the steps of acceptance? Someone has completely has won, for example, for the first time. Oh my God, I didn't believe it. I've beaten Victor. You know, he had the resources and what have you. What are some of the stages of acceptance so that I come to terms with that? Okay, I have won. I'm the legitimate winner. I have the certificate. For the next 5 years, I'm the boss of this particular region. So what are the steps? What are the stages of acceptance, either for a loss or for a win?
Of course, there's the initial shock and surprise of whatever the outcome, loss or winning. And for those people who win, they also get stressed. Let me shock you. For people,
really?
Yes, they do. Because remember, this person has won. What will happen? People will flock to their house. So the pressure now builds. The person who's won, you never know. Somebody might start challenging their win, so stress can come from there. Somebody can say, no, I want a recount. All right, so there's that particular stress. Remember, the person who's won now starts to feel that pressure of performing. So now, do they have enough time for their family? Do they have enough time for their physical health? There are more demands on the winner still, right? So it's not that after winning, now we relax, we sleep. So after winning, there's also now resetting your mindset to, okay, what needs to be done? So you reset what needs to be done. Do I need to? Is there a recount happening? Are we okay? Are we ready to go? Then there's a pressure of who do I elect where? Who do I put in which office? There are people who perhaps you had promised, I'll put you in this office, I'll put you. Now they come asking for their promises. Then there's the temptation of people coming and telling you, you know, to get into shoddy deals, corruption, give me this tender, I'll do this and that. There are all these pressures that come in. So I would say for acceptance, I actually don't know if people ever reach a total acceptance. I feel like acceptance is challenged at every single step, at every single encounter, with every single job they need to do. You know, there's that kind of constant having to prove yourself.
Because the reason why I'm asking this one is because the common Mwananchi, they have voted, they have spent their time, run around in the cold, and some of them even die because of supporting candidate A or B. So there is that aspect of family that is completely now broken. Some people lost their jobs, some people lost their livelihoods, and even as we speak, others, you know, getting displaced because of a reason or two, which should not be the case. The government says, be where you are. So as a nation, are we ready to move past 9th of August, generally?
I think we'll never really be fully ready. But what I would just like to advise everybody, be it the politician or the Mwananchi, the voters, is have a life outside of politics. Even as a politician, you cannot eat, live, breathe everything politics. You know, even if it's have a farm, have something else that, you know, not even really a backup plan, but something that also is an escape from just politics all through. Because it can be very consuming. Yes.
Perhaps, let me just give an example. I've had people who tell me, hey, bana, imekuwa ngumu, my phone even stopped ringing. How deep can that get into someone's head?
It's very depressing and isolating, especially for those who lose, and everybody kind of runs away and you're left alone. And then perhaps you already broke the family perhaps, then now you're truly alone. And that's why I was saying, have other things going for you. Even if it is golf, even if it's a farm, whatever, have a business, have something else outside of politics, because guess what? If it goes wrong, you might find yourself standing alone with nobody there to call you, it can be very isolating.
And that's where someone gets into depression.
Completely, yes.
Your final word, because I'm tempted to ask you this. A politician coming to you and tells you, Daktari, I'm depressed. How do you help him or her?
The first thing I would say is I'm not surprised that you're depressed. So I understand why you would be depressed. It's always just good to listen to somebody and affirm them that I actually understand why you're in this position. And to just avail myself to walk with them the journey, to look at their social support, to bring in their family. I think I would say that for all politicians out there, get somebody, maybe even not me, maybe, you know, maybe we are a big team at Chiromo, but come and get somebody to walk this journey with you. Don't wait until now you're suicidal, you are depressed, you are anxious, you're addicted to alcohol now to come. Find somebody to walk the journey with.
You know, this is a brutal truth, because next week at such a time, somebody will be a winner and somebody will be a loser. Please just talk to them in that camera, because we just have to face it as it is. 9th of August, 10th, 11th, we have got celebrations and tears across the country, depending on how it will go. How do you help such a person from Chiromo Hospitals Group?
From Chiromo, what What I would say is that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel stressed. Just don't go at it alone. Come and get help. Come and reach out to us. It's not a kind of weakness to get mental help. It's not weakness. It doesn't mean you're weak. There is no shame. Let us end that stigma and just come and get the help that you need, because you're a human being.
Mental health is real.
It is real. It is.
I ask a question. Am I okay? Do I look fine? Or do I look depressed?
We can't know. You know, when I was growing up, we used to say, mwenda wazimu, you know, it's somebody who's stripping naked and running around and all of that.
Yes.
The face of depression is like me and you.
No.
In a good suit, smiling at everybody. People can be depressed looking very, very normal. People can be anxious. Even right now, you could be anxious and I don't know. The only way to know is to get an evaluation. When you feel you're not okay, don't just sit with that feeling. Come and tell us, I don't think I'm okay. You might not know it's depression, but you always know when there's something not okay. Just come and tell us that statement. I don't think I'm okay.
Do you get depressed?
Of course.
And you seek help?
Of course. So I'm not immune. Nobody's immune.
Why not me? Why not that politician?
Exactly.
I mean, we also have, we just need to get help from whichever source
exactly.
at the end of the day, because we just had to have this discussion. Everything has been flying around. Mtu wengi anashinda, tunachukua kitu asubuhi, nini, and what are that? But what about if you lose? What next after that? We've had situations where people, quit their jobs to get into politics. We've had situations where people, sell their property just to get into politics. It's a gamble. But at the end of the day, we only have one winner. That is where we wrap up this conversation. It's better we do it right now rather than later after the damage is done. My name is Victor Lo. We had Dr. Caroline Vundi from the Chiromo Hospitals Group, a psychiatrist there. If you need any help, please go there and talk to them. They will help you. All right? Thank you so much for watching. My name is Victor Lo. Have a good morning.
Dance is an integral tool for cultural transmission and harmonious coexistence between families and communities. It permeates most occasions and stages in life, including childbirth, initiation, wedding, funeral, commemoration, inauguration, religious festivity, sporting event, and other public congregations.
Isukuti ni kazi, sio kitu ya kuchezea. Isukuti inafanya kama hauna pipi utapata pipi. Utakutana na msichana hachaoleka, lakini anaposikia tu ile mwito na kucheza, chinzi mwenzangu alivyosema, ngozi ya mburukenge ukiiwekea, ukicheza sauti inaenda mbali.
Practiced among the Isuha and Daho communities of Western Kenya, the Isukuti dance is a traditional celebratory performance that takes the form of a fast-paced, energetic, and passionate dance accompanied by drumming and singing.
Wakati wageni walifika, Isukuti ilichezwa, ikachezwa, na ile wakati ilikuwa inaitwa mwinu huyu. Hawakuwa na jina kamili ya hiki chombo. So wakati Isukuti ilikuwa inapigwa, walikuwa wana kwinu, yani ile kutingika ile, ndio mwinu huyu. Na ndio tulikuwa tunajua hata kabla. Wakati wale wazungu walicheza, wakacheza, walikuja at final wakasema it is good. So kulingana na accent ya Muisuha, akasema wa baba odi Isukuti. Ani wamesema Isukuti.
The dance derives its name from the drums used in the performance, played in the sets of 3, a big, medium, and small drum, and normally accompanied by an antelope horn and assorted metal rattles. A soloist leads the dance, singing thematic texts in tandem with the rhythm of the drum beats and the steps of the dancers, arranged in separate rows for men and women. According to one of the dancers, Asutsi, Isukuti involves members of a nuclear family. He says according to Isukas, Isukuti has an extended family that comprises Isukuti in 3 sets.
Katika lugha yetu ya Kisukha, ile isukuti kubwa inaitwa isukuti esata, ambayo inafuata, ambayo ni mama kulangwa motibo, na ile ndogo kabisa, the small drum, hiyo ndio inaitwa mutiti. Hii ni familia ya isukuti. Isukuti iko na extended family ambayo kuna zile rings, kuna ile horn na kuna shiriri. Kuna shiriri. So in a extended family ya isukuti.
They also blow horns and a shiriri, which is an instrument with strings, which is extended family. Its origin dates back to ancient times. It was called mwinuyo. It's made from mukomari, murembe and mongoma trees and hides, but the mukomari is the easily found tree.
Inatengenezwa kwa miti aina mbalimbali. Kuna mukomari, kuna mungoma na kuna murembe. Lakini mti ambao unapatikana kwa haraka sana ni mukomari.
Burukenge or Nile monitor lizards, leather is used to cover it.
Hiyo ukaushi kwa moto, ni ngozi ambayo ni safi, sauti ambayo inatoka ni safi, na watu wanaifurahia kwa sababu hiyo ndio ngozi ambayo inakubalika kwa isukuti.
Kutoka kwa maji hiyo, ukiangalia iko na matoatoa, iko na maritati. Hiyo ndio the specialist. Hii ni special skin ile wanatumia kuweka kwa ngozi.
It is played on birthdays, weddings, harvesting and other ceremonies that would include shiremba, which is an event that involves men alone.
Isukuti imechezwa kwa sherehe mbalimbali. Isukuti imechezwa kwa mahari, isukuti imechezwa kwa maharambe, isukuti imechezwa katika campaigns, political campaigns, hata tukiwa na sherehe ya watoto, birthdays, bullfighting, na hata ile occasion yenye ina furaha, isukuti uchezwa pale.
Isukuti unites people and even soothes them in sad occasions.
Piga isukuti unatuliza zile mioyo ambazo zilikuwa na huzuni, unawacha ziko na furaha kidogo.
For Asutsi, isukuti has helped him eke a living.
Katika nyumba kusomesha watoto na mahitaji mbalimbali ambayo tunaweza kutumia.
Mimi ni mwenyeji wa kuzitengeneza na zimenifanya nimenunua shamba kwa hizi unapochonga market zinapopatikana.
Those still in possession of isukuti drums are mostly elderly and lack successors to whom they can pass on their knowledge. Adding that lack of funds and the necessary material have presented an obstacle to make the instruments and costumes.
Wasi wazazi wasifungie talanta ya watoto, wawache wafanye talanta, na katika talanta kuna malipo, watafika mbali.
Finally, many composers prefer to work in more commercial genres, and audiences frequently substitute contemporary entertainment for traditional isukuti dances.
Communications Authority of Kenya, CA, regulates the broadcasting industry, promoting development of local content and ensuring responsible use of broadcasting platforms for national good, to give you and your family choice with a variety of content to enjoy. Communications Authority of Kenya, opening your world.
But did I lose my babies?
Only one of them. That's why you felt sick and you woke up all bloated.
Don't ever do that, Adrian. Do you think I'm so helpless that I won't be able to earn a living for myself? No.
I don't even know how to approach you. I've forgotten you for many years.
And you?
We heard about what happened, son. We came to see you.
Get out. Get out of here.
Renea, please.
Go away.
Kwa miaka 11 Minto FM imekuwa pamoja nanyi ikiwapa burudani na kuwaelimisha. Na sasa tunawaalika mashabiki wetu tujumuike pamoja kwa tamasha la Minto Night. Tarehe 6 mwezi Agosti tutakuwa na Minto Night huko Winspark Resort Kisii. Wanamuziki kama vile Kwasa Kwasa, Embarambamba na wengine watakuwa site kuwaburudisha. Siku ya Jumapili tarehe 7 Agosti, Minto FM itaandaa maombi ya shukrani na kuombea uchaguzi wa amani katika uwanja wa Itiero Primary School kuanzia saa 3 asubuhi. Waimbaji wa nyimbo za dini wakiwemo Evangelist Eric Mwaniki, Molly Kemunto na wengineo watakuwemo. Nyote mwalikwa.
Minto FM yenye karuga y'ubusi.
And knowing fully well that children form 50% of our population, just what critical role do they play in elections, and particularly this elections, knowing fully well that they do not actively participate in the voting process, and just what can institutions as well as stakeholders do to ensure protection of children now, during and even after the elections? These are some of the issues that we are set to interrogate at this hour with my guest, that is Leonard Chumo, who is Early Child Development Policy Specialist. Karibu sana to the program, Leonard.
Thank you very much, Doreen.
Now, even before you go to the issues, 5 days to elections, what is your general assessment in terms of where we are right now, and even as you look at the preparedness in respect to these elections?
Thank you. I think the conversation around children doesn't always find itself to the center of elections and electioneering period, and so I'm really excited that KBC is putting a spotlight on issues around children. We have a responsibility as a society and as a nation to ensure that our children are safe, they're healthy, they get access to nutrition and information as well. And so, as we move very close to election, there must be modalities, framework, and processes that we put in place to ensure that children are safe. Before elections, we should talk a lot about how do the voices of children come to the table, how do we factor in needs and aspirations and wishes of children into the agenda of elections. And then when we get into elections, we can think about how to ensure that they are safe, they have access to good information, and then post-election we can discuss about that. So as a nation, like you rightly say, people don't get to know that we have 50% of this nation is children.
We'll come to that, to the issues as we momentarily continue the conversation, but I just want to get your general feel and assessment, particularly in terms of preparedness. I mean, there's a lot of conversations ongoing around, coming from stakeholders, from institutions, and even just from Kenyans at large. So in your own analysis, do you feel we are ready to go come next week Tuesday?
I think we're ready. Everybody is nervous, but there can be no better time being a Kenyan, than now. Some people, are thinking of traveling, leaving the country, but we need to be proud of our country. I think all systems go. I feel more than ever we are set as a country to go into elections. All institutions seem prepared. You guys in the media, seem ready. And I think let's make it the best election that we've ever had. And, so I'm happy that we can even think about what about children? What about the voices that are not heard?
Yeah. So you feel we are ready to go? August 9th it is.
Yeah.
Okay, now going back to those figures and statistics, I mean, just looking at the general population, we say that children account of half of this. I mean, 50%. And as you rightly put, that this information may not be out there. People may not even be thinking that actually children form a bigger chunk of this. But the question that is out there is, much as they form a big chunk of the population, we know fully well they are not actively involved in the election process because, I mean, under the age of 18, you can't vote. It's within the Constitution. So then what critical role do they play in elections?
So, world over, children, do not participate directly in elections.
Yes.
But, countries are beginning to find ways that voices of children, come to find their way into the agenda of elections. In our country here, we have the county children forums, we have, children assemblies. And I hold the opinion that somehow we need to get the voices of children to count in elections. And I'm involved in research, with a few other people that are thinking about, why shouldn't children actually vote? What is the reason why children do not really vote? Is it because of age? Is it because they do not have an opinion? Is it because they do not matter? Now, when we're talking about 50%, actually it's not 50, it's about 53, 54.
So the number has increased over time.
The accurate figure is about 53, 54.
Okay.
And, so if you're talking about a country whose half of the population do not raise issues that count in an election period that will last for 5 years, there's a problem. So children have agendas, they have interests, they need to know how to cross the road. So let me touch something that is very current. Professor Makoha, who I think I like his work, announced that schools were closing yesterday. He announced on Monday. You don't do that in a country with 50% young children. Education needs to begin to be an important thing in this country, where no one just wakes up and says, schools will close tomorrow. We have children who go to school in Kilifi, they come from Busia, and vice versa. When you close school like that, how do they get there? And it's not even practical that you'll open schools on 11th, because literally that means that on 10th they need to be on the way traveling back to school. It's not possible. So I think, and the reason I'm saying that is elections is not an accident. It's not an emergency. We planned for 5 years. You guys in the media held a presidential election and you announced the next presidential, debate. And you announced the next presidential debate will be on, you even gave a date in 2027. Why should we not be able in the education sector say, schools will be closed on this and this date in 2027. We need to plan. So I think we need to start engaging, being realistic, have smart objectives for children, and bring their voices to the election as well.
So basically what you're saying is that much as they may not be active players, because they are ideally passive, they are not going to be there, casting a ballot because of the age factor, as you mentioned. But what I'm getting from you is that they also are key players in essence, that they also need to be involved. Let them also know why things are happening the way they are, not just ambush. Is that what I'm getting from you?
Yes, actually from child protection angle and our constitution, 2010 Article 53, articulates very, very rightly. The president just signed an act, July, I think 12th of this year.
Yeah, it was July 6th.
Yes, Children's Act 2022. And it says very clearly that children have a right of information. They need to know what's going on. And again, when you close schools, they need to know why. You have parents out there whose children are asking them, when we open schools, am I moving to the next class? Because they think maybe a term is over, we're moving to the next one. They have a right to unbiased information. They need to know what is presidential candidate Wajakoya, Raila, Ruto, and Wahiga about. Who are they? They are Kenyans. They have ideas and they would like to lead the country. Very unbiased, and even though they do not participate, they need to know what's going on. And every 5 years we have elections. What is an election? We get to choose a leader who leads our country, who champions the needs of the poor, the needs of children with disability, the needs of children like you, and so on. So we need to give that information to them. And in the best case scenario, and in the coming years, we need to begin early, and IEBC needs to be involved as well. Begin early to gather, views and information from children. How would they like, their schools look like? How would they like, their teaching programs to look like? School feeding, child protection. What are the issues that need to be captured in the manifestos of the politicians and put very squarely at the center? So yes, they're passive, but it's up to us adults. We have a responsibility to channel their views, their aspirations, and squarely put them into what we run for 5 years.
All right, well put. Even as talk about the forums, I just remember that also last month, I think it was about July 1st, UNICEF organized a forum with various stakeholders where children were presenting some of their issues to a good number of these leaders. And just from that particular forum, there was some raft of 6 issues that also UNICEF presented forth, citing that the state needs to look into these issues, and whichever faction takes office at the end of the day, they also need to look at these issues. So I just want us to look at some of those issues very quickly, because key among them they presented was matters to do with social protection, end of violence against children, there was health as well as education. And even before we get to the issues, I just want to understand from your perspective, why are these particular issues very important? Because you know fully well there are quite a number of issues. So why do you feel these ones were really picked? Why are they pertinent?
So there are a number of international conventions that Kenya is party to, and so we are required as a player within a global framework to safeguard the rights of children. The 1989 UN Convention on the Right of the Child. We have the African Charter on the Welfare of the Child. Now we have our own constitution. Then we have the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. What we call the point twos of SDGs, 1.2, 2.2, 3.2, 4.2, all that. Squarely talks about what we need to do as a nation in order to fulfill, the goals of sustainable development goals, and also to be compliant with national, regional, and global conventions. So the issues of health, for instance, the reduction of poverty, ending violence, the cases of violence at home, and we're talking about violence. We really, really, really hope that as a nation, we will be decent, we will be civil, and the elections that are coming up will be peaceful, I echo the words of the former press secretary of the late President Moi, who said, politicians are political, they're cousins. I think he said something like that. So vote and go home. Of course, they're telling...
they're always friends at the end of the day.
Yeah, at the end of the day. Of course, they're telling you vote and stay there to watch for the election, the votes. But the point really is let's vote and be decent, wait for results, go back to work. But there could be violence, in sports here, and violence does not mean physical. It could be the words that we're moving around in social media, the videos that are doing rounds, and so on. There is violence in the community, domestic violence, because of poverty, divorce, and all those things. We need to ensure that children are safe. And as a country, we cannot. There is a statement in the Nurturing Care Framework, which is a framework by a global framework for action for children that was developed by UNICEF, WHO, World Bank, and other like-minded global organization, and was launched in Geneva, May of 2018 at the assembly there. One statement says that a nation, one of the easiest way a nation can achieve equity and get out of poverty and have development is by investing in children. So when we talk about focusing on health, nutrition, quality education, we're actually saying that we want our country to get out of poverty, to have equity, to have the things that the politicians are calling national aspirations. We can achieve them through children. And so I really want to commend bodies like UNICEF, civil society organizations, the Department of Children's Services, the Ministry of Gender, and others, and even the President. I think they're beginning to focus on, yes, we have youth in universities, colleges, we have women and youth, but we have children, which form the next generation, the next generation of voters, the next crop of leaders. The CBC outlines very clearly on what we would like a patriot to look like. And that's what we're saying. Let's focus on children. Yeah.
So we are saying that these other issues that they are equally important, but this one become more pertinent because they are also key in the development of a child's life. That's what you're looking at. Let's stick on that violence beat just for a while, because again, also when you look at the research that was conducted by the University of Nairobi on the post-election violence, their focus was actually on the socio-economic aspect, and they looked at different areas, particularly the peri-urban areas, on the effects of the PEV as at that time. Let's just look at the long-term effects of this, because again, children and women are always at the center of it. And also looking at that research, which indicated that at least above 500 children were affected, and this is out of the over 1,000 people that are affected in that post-election violence. What is the long-term effect of such on children, particularly?
Yeah, thanks, Doreen, that you bring that back. We've always been told that Kenyans are great people because they forget easily. Good thing, but can also be a bad thing. So we're not going back to 2007.
Yes,
definitely, as a country, and I hope everyone is committing to not going there. But better be prepared and not have it than not prepared and get there. So the statistics of 2007 were very revealing. That children, about 40% of the casualties of the violence were children.
Yeah.
And so,
which is a significant number.
Very, very significant. And children are not necessarily partisan. So they happen to be casualties of things that sometimes they do not know. And the effects are far-reaching, because we're talking about people who lost lives, but there are people who lost livelihoods, they lost parents, they had to move to different communities, and that creates trauma, post-traumatic stress disorders, loss of education. And I was thinking about the 2007, now we have 15-year-old children that it will be very interesting to study what are their perception about, unity, patriotism, and nationalism. So as a country...
And elections as well.
And elections, would they grow up to be voters? If they see violence, maybe not. So I think we need to begin to be conscious of what children are seeing, what they are hearing, because they will replicate, they will reflect what we do and who we are, what we say in political rallies, how we conduct ourselves on the election day. Let me remind us that elections will be happening in schools, by the way. And in future, I think I would like to incite schools to ensure that IEBC pays them rent for using their facilities.
As polling centers.
Yeah, so we need to be decent, because those are children's places, spaces. They need to see decency. Let's conduct ourselves properly and go home. What we share on social media, they have long-term effect. Children are like sponges. They take in what they see from the environment, and the effects will be long-term. They will live to reflect that. If we do good, they will be great citizens of our country.
And against why we keep advocating for peace in every chance you get. Avoid the mayhem, the poor bad messaging on the socials, because just as you're saying, it has a long-term effect. I mean, talked about those that are born at that time, they're what, around 15 years old as at that time. So you can imagine if they're thinking, I will never vote, then this in a way castigates their right in that regard. So it's important to ensure even what we put out there. Okay, going back to the law that was assented by the president on July 6th, that is the children's bill, and right now it's actually a law, has a raft of issues in there, including the children's right. Talk about the right to various forms of freedom, basic needs, and all of that. And one may just say that children have a better, or they could be having a good understanding of what their rights are, but they do not have an understanding of what really election means. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean, we've come far as a country. The 2022 Children's Act is not perfect, but we've come really far as a country. And many countries, in the region, and interestingly, globally, look up to Kenya, as a model. So we are setting the pace for other countries, for other societies, and we are a case study for best practices. So, the law articulates very elaborately on what the responsibilities of institutions, persons, families, all stakeholders, government ministries, and so on, towards enhancing, protecting, and implementation of children's rights. And I think one of my excitement is how it attempts to implement all the 1989 UN Convention on the Right of the Child, 12 articles. The right to information, freedom, association, education, health, all those things. Now, when it comes to information, it's our responsibility. We have an advantage to educate the younger, generation. But it has to be a two-way. We also need to listen to children. The way they communicate is not the way we do. Their language is different. There is even a way right now they're asking questions about elections, but they do not ask, using English or Kiswahili. They might ask, using, facial expression, using drawings, the way you can see them reacting to crowds or when they see things on TV and things like that. So we need to listen. And I really urge, the population, parents especially, the community, political leaders, to think about children, even as we, emotionally get connected to politicians. Let's think about children. On the election day, when you leave home to go and vote, is your child safe? Who are you leaving your child with? Are you explaining to them what you're going to do? Do they have food to eat? As we watch the TV, are we cautious on the material being, shown on TV? And I appeal to the media to think about children even as they broadcast, censor some content, or warn viewers. The messages that politicians say sometimes is not good material for children. So, let's inform them, and most importantly, unbiased information. Let's give them information. They do not need to make choices, but they need to know what's going on. Yeah.
I mean, when you talk about informing, ensuring that the knowledge is passed out there, this responsibility lies squarely with whom? Because also, when you look at children, I mean, their perception largely when it comes to elections or politics, so to speak, it is shaped from their parents, from guardians. So who squarely lies with this responsibility of passing information to children?
So everyone. Everyone.
It's a holistic kind of effort.
Everyone. In fact, I refer to the Nurturing Care framework, and you can go to nurturingcare.org and look at that. It's a five-year framework for all nations, and it talks about all community, all society, all government. So we're talking all systems. And I think the president used those terms in unveiling, the Children's Act recently. That it's a responsibility of everyone. Civil society, families. Of course, it starts from home, but we're talking about all children. Some of them are not in homes. Some are in charitable children institutions. Some are in conflict with the law. Others are in foster care. So everyone, where the child is, the public, the community, politicians, religious leaders, everyone, we have a responsibility to, one, protect them from abuse, violence, exploitation. We're likely going to see those things emerging because the attention of the society is now focused in one direction. And so there are, evils that could easily be perpetuated against children. Distribution of campaign materials or messages, or even people who are looking for numbers can easily recruit primary school kids to fill the stadiums and things like that, so they look like they have numbers. So they could easily, they are vulnerable, and this situation makes them a lot more vulnerable. Children with disability, children who cannot hear, the deaf. How do we ensure that we are protecting them? So it's everybody's right. Drivers on the road, schools. Right now everyone is complaining. Professor closed schools suddenly. They don't have fees. But teachers cannot just close schools and care nothing about where children go. It's their responsibility. They need to know that children arrive home well. If they come from Turkana and they study in Nairobi, it's the teacher's responsibility together with parents to ensure that they are safe home. So I guess I'm saying is it's everyone's responsibility.
It's everyone's responsibility. And I mean, Leonard, I just like to get a practical, so to speak, example of this protection, because as you've mentioned, children right now are at home, and that is possibly going to continue up until 10th, at least going by the ministry's directive. But how then do you protect children? Like, for instance, just was it yesterday or 2 days back, when we had leaflets circulating in some parts of the country propagating hate speech kind of messaging, but at least as of yesterday, we know that the ministry, through the police, arrested 8 suspects out of that particular issue. So children are in that space. These leaflets are circulating, they're propagating hate speech kind of message, and a parent is wondering, so how then do I protect my children from this? Because this is something that you may not really have control over at the end of the day, but also they have to be protected. Yes.
I would, I think my opinion, I would encourage that we become aware that children are human beings. They have emotions. They have desire to know. They hear, they listen, they have all the senses. Let's not assume that 2-year-old child, 5-year-old, they don't care, they don't know, they don't need to know. Let's begin from there. And when we talk about rights of children, we're not saying that children are against adults. We're just saying that if we become the influence, the right influencers for children, our society actually becomes better. So right of information, what information can I share with my child? In what ways can I share with them? For example, it's simple to say during an election period, we elect a president and they do not even know what is to elect. We get grown-ups like me and you get to choose a president who leads us for 5 years, and they lead us by coming up with policies. They build the roads, they build schools, and that's what's going on right now. So we are closing schools so that some of the schools can be used for that exercise in a simple way that is broken down, again unbiased, but it begins from knowing that they need to know. Sometimes they actually want to know. Let's not brush them off, when you
and
put on
they're not important.
Yeah, you put on a TV and the first person that shows up there is talking about something, then you shout and say, go out.
Already you've built perception to that
go
show.
out, you say, okay, something bad is happening. And children like what they are told not to see or not to watch. But, we can explain to them why we think it's not right material for them. It's graphic or it's adult information and things like that. So there are very practical ways. And the assumption, of course, is that parents are at home, which again is not very true. There are families that will not even be breaking for holiday. They must go out and get food. So children are alone at home. That's why it has to be a whole society, whole government, everybody's business. In our neighborhoods, when children are playing, let's allow them to play. If they have to stop, because of commotion and things like that, let's put them back into safe places. And the Act, the 2022 Act, actually prescribes what needs to be done. Reporting, for instance. 112 is a toll-free number anyone can call, including parents and children. And I'd like to, there might be children watching this show, that if you're in a situation that you're sensing danger, abuse or exploitation, ask your parents or a friend for a phone and dial 116. And you'll have people who are friendly, it's toll free. They'll talk to you, they'll find out where you are, what circumstances you are in. And that can even be your own parents, because sometimes children are in danger of their own, parents and relatives. So I think there are ways we can practically help children to be safe. And I'm not talking just for this election period. They're more vulnerable now because attention is focused elsewhere. And there will be other, idlers around, drug addicts and drunkards who might take advantage of that. So it's a high risk area. Time for now. But these are things that need to be seen across, the year, across the 5 years. We need to safeguard children, report cases of abuse, and help them to thrive and succeed.
Well said. And that's like on the ground, when they're out there and they're perhaps detecting some form of violence, they can dial. The number is what? 116. 116.
Yeah. But they can call police as well, 999.
Yes.
And I think 112.
Okay.
But 116 is a special helpline for children matters.
Well said. Well said. That is on that part. On the social platform, then how do you navigate this? It's a free space. We say that we are a democratic space, and freedom of speech is also enshrined in our constitution. Just the other time, NCIC was saying that we need to close Facebook, at least for this moment, but the ministry came and ravaged that and said that we are a free state. So then how do you curb such? There's just so much you can control that is going on the online space. How do you go about this one?
Yeah, that's an emotive conversation, especially 5 days to election. And we've seen
because a good number of these children, around 15, 16, they have phones.
They have, and they are on social media as well. And parents and caregivers are generous to hand them their phones, and so we probably the act really talks about protection of children, including on materials, internet, and from sources, varied sources of
This is the
abuse.
Children's Act.
Yes. But in terms of practice, again, I think we need to do more to educate, caregivers, adults, and the society that we have a collective responsibility. What we share, what we pass on, what we load and upload, can get into anyone. And so I think it's important for caregivers, adults to know what children are watching, what children are accessing.
More like monitor?
I mean, mostly they use their gadgets and so on, but for children who are older, teenagers, you have to embrace dialogue. You have to talk about these things, just like we talk about sex education, election, education, and let's hope that in the coming, days, we can bring some of these elements even into the curriculum, so that it's not one of those dark spaces that we should never talk about. Violence happens. We need to talk about it. How can children stay away from violence? How can children stay away from abuse? What are you likely to get on social media? Let's prepare them. What do you do if you see content that is not appropriate? And what is content that is not appropriate? So I think we need to, where you can limit access to inappropriate content, do that. Where you anticipate that your authority or opportunities to limit access to inappropriate content, and then embrace dialogue, discuss with children, and let them know why they need to take their own responsibility. And what we're talking about also targets children themselves, because they need to take their own protection as their own responsibility as well. They need to know who to talk to if they sense danger. They need to know what content is not appropriate and why. They need to know if their escalation of environment that might eventually lead to either violence or things like that. So we can educate, and it needs to begin also in schools. And I think Professor Makoha, I think he's a great minister. Hopefully he becomes a minister again. Maybe 1 week to election, we need to say schools will only focus on teaching elections. What is election? What do people do? What should we expect? How can we promote peace as children and so on.
Okay, I hear you. And as we begin to wind down, Leonard, I know you've just mentioned it a bit even as you're responding to that earlier question, but I'd like you to elucidate it further and perhaps make more sense. You've talked about 1 week to elections, but shouldn't we have this perhaps in the lessons, that it's part of the curriculum, part of the classes, that let's just understand what election means, what does voting means, what is voting patterns, what is your role as a child, what does your parents' perception play on all of this? Do you think we need to be having that as we wind down the conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, as a country, I hope every Kenyan is proud of our country, and we have one country. We've made great strides, in curriculum development and reforms in education, and there's still a lot to be done, definitely, teacher training, employment, all those things, but. I think CBC provides one unique opportunity that we can utilize to engender values, and it talks a lot about values, and be very current. We've now known that election in this country is a very, very important thing. People campaign for 5 years; they never get tired. So we need to talk about it. Children need to know, if they pass by Nyayo Stadium or Uhuru Park and there is a large crowd that doing election, what is that? So I do agree with you. We need to incorporate elements of, and there's some there. Those of us who went to school a long time ago, we used to do civic education.
Yes.
And some of it is there, but I think it's not sufficient. We can do more, educate and empower children to know make right decisions, because it takes very short time before they become voters as well. And if we do not prepare them, we have actually prepared to fail. So I'm excited. But first, let's go and vote peacefully. I think we need to begin there.
Yes.
If we have this conversation 2 weeks from now, we can talk about what we need to do in the curriculum. But for now, let's ensure that children are safe. To IEBC, when we have pregnant mothers coming to vote, let's give them priority. If there are parents who cannot leave children to anyone and they have to bring them to the polling station, let's give them priority. Let's conduct ourselves decently. And those of us at home, let's explain what's going on to parents in a way that to children, in a way that they can understand. But let's be peaceful.
Well said, and a good place to end it. I mean, those are also some very good recommendations from you, at least when it touches on that aspect of peace. It is very important. As you mentioned, elections will come and go, but the country will remain you and I at the end of the day. Good place to end it. And asante sana for your time, Leonard, just coming and explaining to us, making it make more sense as to why children are necessary and important and play a critical role when it comes to elections.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. That has been Leonard Chumo, Early Child Development Policy Specialist. Of course, just talking to us about child protection amid this election period and the critical role that children play when it comes to election. Good place to end the conversation and good place to end Good Morning Kenya this Wednesday morning. Asante sana on behalf of the entire team. Thank you so much, and let's do this again tomorrow.
The 2022 Commonwealth Games will be hosted in Birmingham, United Kingdom from the 28th of July through the 8th of August 2022. Team Kenya is set to make its 17th appearance at the Games. Kenya will contest for medals in several disciplines, among them athletics, boxing, hockey, rugby, weightlifting, wheelchair basketball and para-sports, among others. Watch the Games live on KBC Channel 1. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Kwa miaka 11 Minto FM imekuwa pamoja nanyi ikiwapa burudani na kuwaelimisha. Na sasa tunawaalika mashabiki wetu tujumuike pamoja kwa tamasha la Minto Night. Tarehe 6 mwezi Agosti tutakuwa na Minto Night huko Winspark Resort Kisii. Wanamuziki kama vile Kwasa, Embarambamba na wengine watakuwa site kuwaburudisha. Siku ya Jumapili tarehe 7 Agosti, Minto FM itaandaa maombi ya shukrani na kuombea uchaguzi wa amani katika uwanja wa Itiero Primary School kuanzia saa 3 asubuhi. Waimbaji wa nyimbo za dini wakiwemo Evangelist Eric Mwaniki, Molly Kemunto na wengineo watakuwemo. Nyote mwalikwa.
Minto FM yenye karuga yubusi.
But did I lose my babies?
Only one of them. That's why you felt sick and you woke up all bloated.
Don't ever do that, Adrian. Do you think I'm so helpless that I won't be able to earn a living for myself? No.
I don't even know how to approach you. I've forgotten you for many years.
And you?
We heard about what happened, son, and we came to see you.
Get out. Get out of here.
Renea, please.
Go away.
Naam, hii ni Mitikasi Leo, makala kutoka BBC.